12 Media Day Wednesday, and we are starting off this edition of the program with some fireworks right off the rip. Let's send it back to Arlington, where Jake and Dan are with KU standout running back and Lawrence native Devin Neal.
All right, Devin, we got a lot to get to here. We've talked to every one of your teammates, and every one of your teammates gave us some dirt on you, man. Like, they threw you under the bus. It started off with your head coach, Lance Leipold, just casually dropping, because I asked about music. Who's in charge of music at practice?
Okay.
And Coach Leipold, said, we like to get a little bit upbeat. And then all of a sudden he says, well, if you ask Kenny Logan, he'd want Taylor Swift. So he just throws Kenny Logan under the bus.
Right.
We find out he's a big Swiftie. Loves Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
Big Swiftie. Tried to go to the concert,
Yep.
Couldn't make it there. And then that's when the floodgates opened and everybody was just making fun of everybody. So here we go.
What's on me? I need to know.
I need to know this. So word on the street is you got some sweet shoes on right now, because you forgot your shoes is what somebody said. So when did you go get your – because you guys look great.
God.
By the way, you guys are some of the best dressed. You got Texas with, collared shirts and, not tucked in. I mean, you're rocking some good stuff. You forgot your shoes. When did you figure out you forgot your shoes?
All right, so we fly – I'm literally checking everything. I'm checking my bag. And I'm like, okay, we're good, yeah. So we get off the plane. We start driving to the hotel. We get out. And I brought my slides with me too, but because Coach Leipold wanted us to wear like a polo on the plane so they can take pictures, everything. So I grabbed my slides out the plane or out the car, sorry. And then I just stop. I'm like, I don't have my shoes.
Terrible.
And I know exactly where they are. They're in my car, at the airport. So I didn't leave them at home. I just forgot to grab them out of my car, put them in my bag.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm just like, oh my God. And they're like, yeah, just come with me. So we went down to, I forget what that shoe store was. And I'm like, those ones, $54.
Bang.
Can't go wrong. Yeah. I'm like,
now you got a new pair of shoes, right?
New pair of shoes.
New pair of shoes.
Anyway, whatever.
And they look good, though. They look good.
I appreciate
Did
that.
you have something a little bit more stylish or more,
Nah, they're pretty similar.
Pretty similar?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a loafer guy, so I went with the loafer.
Loafer?
There and, yeah.
Loafer, no socks?
Oh, I have ew. No, I definitely got to wear socks.
I'm with you. I'm team socks, by the way.
I have no-show socks on.
That's okay. That's why I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
Also, apparently the weight room's been treating you well.
Oh, yeah.
Neck a little thicker now.
That top button is not buttoned.
we found
We've
out
gotten,
that
we've gotten exposed for real today.
we were told from your teammate.
Which one?
That was Rich.
Yeah, that
was Rich. Oh. Okay. Got it.
So he said that shirt fit a month ago, but now you need the extender. You got to get the extender.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was going on with me. I mean, I'm like, is this serious right now? There was just so many things going wrong. I mean, but worked out, our Andy's like, I'd never do my top buttons. I'm like, why not? Thank God I didn't bring the bow tie, because that'd have just been a mess. I was going to bring the bow tie, but I'm like, I'd rather go more businessy. So
yeah,
worked out.
And it worked out well. So yeah, see, but what this tells me is that you guys have such a great close knit group, and that starts with Coach Leipold.
Yeah, 100%.
The fact that he's willing to have some fun with one of his seniors, Kenny Logan, and Kenny says he's really funny. He loves to joke around to the point where Coach Leipold, he'll, if you get him in practice, he remembers it, and he'll come back maybe later in practice and just slyly walk by and then give you just something.
Oh yeah,
that kind of tells me what kind of we've been at interviewing a lot of KU players for the last 10 years coming to this. Didn't have that same type of vibe before with other coaches. It just seems he's brought that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just what makes him him. I mean, if you look from the outside, he's a dry guy, he's a serious guy, but he is, no doubt. But he also has that fun side of he wants to joke around with you all the time. And, it's actually one of the reasons why, when all the Coach Miles stuff went down, right? It's one of the main reasons why, I stayed is just I talked to Coach Leipold, I talked to Coach Sleeve and the rest of the staff, and I'm just they care. And I mean, once you get that feeling that Coach cares, you're going to, or anyone, if you feel anyone cares about you, you're going to do a lot for them. And so, that's how he's gotten the most out of his players and us is we know that he cares about us. And That's just what makes it more special. For
And
sure.
it kind of shows as well, the transfer portal, it's the Wild West right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said KU had the fewest transfers in the transfer portal or tied for the fewest, but not a lot of your teammates have left, and that doesn't surprise you.
No, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, obviously you have those guys who want to seek better opportunities, and I don't put it against them, but, for the most part, everyone wants to stay and they're bought into what we're doing. No one's just jumping ship because they're like, I want to go somewhere and win. Everyone wants to change this program. Everyone has the same goals, same, everyone just builds on the challenge. We love the challenge. That's why we're at Kansas trying to flip this thing. And so that's why I think everyone's here, and not leaving. I mean, you see how much guys in the offense coming back. You see, the back seven is coming back on defense. And I mean, the only reason why we don't have the front guys because, they went on to bigger, better things, and so that's what's really cool about it is everyone wants to stay and they're bought into our program.
We're talking with Kansas running back Devin Neal here live at Media Day, Big 12 Media Day, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Devin, what is the biggest difference today being a Kansas football player as opposed to what it was last year where you're going into a season, low expectations, a lot of losing, stacked up on losing for a decade plus, to now you're coming off the 6 wins in a bowl game. You've gotten a little preseason recognition. There's buzz. There's excitement. There's people back in the stands. What's the biggest difference between life as a Kansas football player on campus in Lawrence now compared to what it was last year?
I'd probably just say respect, not necessarily on campus, just around here, there's a lot more people wanting to talk to us, friendlier, it's not like a bunch of the, when you turn your back, they're like giggling at you, kind of the smirks, like trying to blow you off, but, it's just a much better feeling for us as players. I know we all notice it, how friendly everyone is, just wanting to talk to us and want to know more about our program and what we've done. And then around campus, you just feel the buzz. Everyone's it's not, hey, let's just get to basketball season. They're wanting to go watch football games in March. They're wanting to come to the spring game to see how much progress we've made. And, we played December 28th. They want to see how much progress we made in like 4 months, so that was really cool to see. And, it's just really special to see how many people want to see us play now.
And you've got a unique perspective on that, having grown up in Lawrence. So you know what it was like in a different way than maybe your teammates when it wasn't that. So it's got to feel extra special for you having been part of that growth.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, as a kid, I was not going to the spring game. There's no shot. That's just what as a kid, you want to go to the most second. I was watching teams like Oregon when I was younger, those real electric teams. But now we are that team. So everyone's intrigued by us. And, to be a part of that makes it even special.
Electric on offense, certainly with you, with Jalen Daniels, a preseason Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. But up front, your coach, Lance Leipold, and your teammates have said that's a group that goes 8 or 9 deep and is versatile. How important are they going to be to your success this year?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to win or lose ball games based up front. I mean, that's typically how it goes in football in general, but even more so with our team. And, I watched them make tremendous strides. And, we're finally building that depth. We got guys that can play multiple positions up front. And that's what's most important is like, knock on wood, but injuries come with a part of football. But if a guy goes down, we're still in a position to, compete and still be in the game. It's not going to be a downfall because we have so many guys that can, fill that role. And so that's what's really important. And I'm super proud of those guys for how much work they're putting into, get ready for the season.
You mentioned injuries. Daniel Highshaw suffered an injury last year. Real scary injury, real kind of rare injury that he suffered.
Right.
You've gotten to kind of see him start to work his way back, getting closer and closer to being back on that field. How excited are you for him to rejoin you, not just as, a backfield mate, certainly, but as a teammate, as a friend, to see what he's been through and getting his way back to being on the field? How excited are you for him?
Yeah, I'm really excited for him. And like from a beyond a football standpoint, because we, I hate it, but like at the same time, we all know that this game can somewhat be a part of our identity. So you almost kind of lose part of yourself when you're not playing out there, enjoying what other people are enjoying. So, just seeing the smile come back to his face when he's back on the field doing the thing he loves most, it means a lot. And then obviously as like a backfield mate, it's going to be really special to see what we can do this year. And hopefully it's a full season for sure.
We're talking with Devin Neal, the running back for the Kansas Jayhawks from Lawrence High. He's a Chesty Lion. All right, we had Jalen Daniels here, and he's a special talent. I mean, he's a when I tell people when they ask me about Jalen Dan, I go, he's a lot bigger than you realize.
Yeah.
He's thick. You know, he's not a skinny guy. Like
no, not at all.
This is no disrespect, but Jason Bean is a skinny guy, right?
Yeah.
I asked him, how do you make sure that you don't take too many hits?
Yeah.
Because there's a reason why in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes runs out of bounds.
Yeah.
It's more important, Jalen, not to maybe get that first down and risk yourself. Yes, you want to. It's ingrained in your body. You are a competitor. I'm going to dish out the punishment.
Yeah.
I understand that, but sometimes taking a yard less so you can play the next game is so important.
Yeah.
He even said, I got my guys telling me, stop taking hits.
Yeah.
How do you as a teammate, it's kind of the chicken or the egg, you know, you want him to be aggressive, but you also, I need you to stop taking some hits, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those guys that's told him that. I won't lie to you. And like selfish for me, I'm like, dude, let me do that. You know, it's kind of my job, but like quarterbacks, like as big as a guy he is, he's never been the guy that's trained to take that many hits, right? Like guys like running backs and linebackers, you know, even wide receivers for the most part are trained to take tackles, and we're kind of used to getting out of big hits and hits that can, you know, get you in, you know, knock on wood, injury-prone situations. But those guys aren't used to that because they're not used to running the ball so much. But in our system, you know, he's finally like running the ball a lot more, especially last year. We saw he hasn't ran the ball like that probably ever. And so like he got to get used to that. But at the same time, like you said, he needs to learn that you're not the one that needs to take however many carries getting all those hits. Go down. You know, you don't need to take all those hits. You need to maintain for the whole season. And so, you know, I mean, definitely something you can learn from. I mean, you see it in the NFL. It's almost like a learned trait. Like you got to learn to do that. And he'll definitely get it for sure.
What's funny, you mentioned that I there's no more two-a-days. You don't, did you ever have a two-a-day in high school?
No.
So you don't even know anything about two-a-days. That's how old I am. Two-a-days no longer existence. There's no tackling in practice anymore.
No.
Do you think that there is some connection to not getting hit very much to more injuries now?
I could.
You're used to the wear and tear.
Yeah, I necessarily wouldn't say that. What I would say is people aren't like. There's a lot of people who don't know how to take a tackle, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Like I know, and most running backs know how to get out of situations that, like I said, are injury-prone situations, like a bent leg or something weird like that. Most people know how to get out of that. But I mean, if you're not training that and you don't know how to do it, then that's when you get in that situation, I guess. Because I mean, even though we don't tackle, we still are doing thud stuff. Like you're getting put in situations where you have to stop on a dime, and you know you have to take that hit and bounce off, and you know maybe make a cut to get out. We're still put in those situations, but it's just not necessarily not without going to the ground.
Alrighty, I'll ask about Kenny Logan because he's a safety and he likes to talk, and he doesn't turn it off.
No.
So do you clap back at him in practice? He says he'll talk to anybody. He'll talk to O-linemen, but he doesn't want that smoke. No one wants the smoke of the O-line.
No.
So is it you and him going back and forth?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, that's actually how me and Kenny originally got close my freshman year. It's almost like a way of, like, initiation is how you, like, how they're like, oh, I respect this guy. If he's going to – because, like, I was never the guy that's kind of just going to back down, like, my freshman year and the team reps. You know, I was starting to get more and more reps as the season went on, and then finally, like, after the Duke game. But, like, you know, I was just making a few plays, and he would talk, and then I'll come back at him the next play, and we just go back and forth, and that's how he kind of built our respect for each other. Then now we're really close. But, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely one of those guys. I'm going to talk back every time. Sometimes I don't even realize how much I talk in game, but I talk quite.
So you talk a lot in the game? Because a lot of people talk in practice, but then in the game it's a little different.
Yeah. It's like most of the time I'll just be my own kind of energy guy. But like if someone says something to me, it'll be the rest of the game I'm going to go at that person. So I guess there's just a different mode in me when it comes to football. You kind of need it though.
All right, you decided no more baseball.
Yes, sir.
What was the reason for that?
There was a lot of reasons. I would probably say majority of the reasons was I was just simply worn out.
Yep.
I mean, it was just really exhausting and really hard. I loved baseball, but you know, I was going from like football practice in the morning to, you know, I'll have school, and then I'll go for baseball practice. Then I got to do homework. And my major's not easy. I'm an exercise science major. And so I'm just sitting there like, dude, what am I going to do? I'm sitting there like every morning waking up for spring ball. I was starting to like dread it, like dreading waking up to go to football practice. And I'm like, I got to make a decision here. And then so I just.
That's been hard.
Yeah, it was a really hard decision. I mean, I love baseball, but like I saw kind of my future more in football just based on experience playing, everything going on. And then baseball obviously got a new staff, which I had a long conversation with Coach Fitzgerald. And, you know, he actually wanted me to play and everything, but I gave him the reasons. And then also, like, another reason is I get to spend more time football. Like, I didn't know how good of football I was at. I've never played just one sport in my life. So I never know how good I was at football without all the extra training, you know, staying healthy, staying in the training room. I mean, that's all I've done.
What do you miss most about playing baseball?
Hitting.
See, that was my next question. Okay. You get to do something that can be so much fun.
Yeah.
You get to go hit tanks and slow pitch softball now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, I love slow pitch softball. I'm too old now, knees can't handle it. But, man, I bet you put a softball bat in your hand, someone lobs one of them up, you're going to just wind up that.
Actually,
you can do that.
What I've been doing is golfing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously I'm breaking the habits of baseball because they don't correlate.
No.
So, but, you know, I've actually gotten really into it this summer. And, you know, I'm playing my slice like crazy. If the fairway's in front of me, I'm facing like that way.
Hey, we'll fix that.
But I'm getting on the fairway, though.
Yeah.
So, hey.
If it's a dog, if it's a dog leg left, you in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're back. Because you get the one of them where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play my slice, and it ends up going straight, and you're on another course.
Welcome to golf.
You gotta think opposite field. That's
Right,
what helped me limit my slice. You gotta think opposite field.
Right. So I just been playing around with that. There's a bunch of guys on the team that love to golf who are way better than me.
Yeah.
So they helped me get into it. So I've been smacking.
I bet your club head speed pretty good though, man.
Hey, I'll hit it far now. Just imagine when I get it straight.
This is how we do. This is how the game of golf grows. We're talking with Devin Neal right now, the terrific running back. It looks like you've gotten bigger. Have you gotten bigger?
Yeah, I have. I've been really focusing on my diet this year. I've definitely gotten bigger with muscle mass.
Same.
I'm staying.
Not quite muscle mass for me.
You said same.
Get out of here. I'm more at like 215 now, like consistent 215 instead of like bouncing here and there. I've been like really bouncing like 210, 212 previous years, or freshman year I was like 205, but keep on building. But now I'm like 215, a lot stronger, building the speed. So it's been a great offseason for me. And then with the diet, I just been focusing on like eliminating fatty foods and, you know, just really talking to the nutritionist about what I need to eat and, you know, eliminating all the fat. Or not all the fat. You can't lose all your fat, but
so what's your cheat meal then? What's your cheat?
My cheat meal?
I remember like it was honey buns. They loved honey buns.
Like a nice Alfredo. Mine's Alfredo.
Okay.
Like I don't.
What about like the sugary
like
stuff,
the
like
sugary
the
stuff?
snacks, like man, like snack pack.
I'm a
or something.
Sprite guy. First of all, Sprite is my addiction.
Have you tried the strawberry Sprite?
Yes,
it's delicious.
That I had to stay away from it.
It's so good. I put a little something extra in it that you probably shouldn't. Well, I throw in a little vodka there.
Okay.
So, but
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, that's why I said you can't do that.
We got kids listening. Come on now.
That's all right. So Sprite guy.
Yeah, Sprite, and then I'm an Oreo guy too. Oreos, weird combo, but Oreos is.
You don't.
No.
The Oreos and the Sprite.
No, not at the same time.
Okay. All right.
No, I just figured like since I said them, it was like I'm making sure that they didn't know. I'm definitely not dipping Oreos in Sprite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate the clarification.
I just need to clarify
That's
that.
important.
If that was the case, I'm somewhat of a criminal. So.
Alrighty, you got a couple new faces in the league. You know, you're gonna play UCF and you're gonna play BYU. We've asked this to every one of your teammates. If you are, you know, we're gonna go Barbie themed here because Barbie coming out. You're tour guide Devin right now.
Yeah.
Hey Devin, this is I'm from Provo and I'm coming into Lawrence. What should I do? What should I do in your fair city?
What should you do? Well, the new me says, let's go to Lawrence Country Club and let's go golf.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to take you golfing. And then I'm going to take you to like a hole-in-the-wall spot called Pizza Shuttle. You're going to pay $6 for a 12-inch pizza. And it's going to be the best thing you've eaten in your life. Okay. I'm going to tell you to get cream cheese, which is very underrated and underappreciated. And I'm gonna tell you to put some bacon bits on it as well.
Okay.
Or if I'm not going to Pizza Shuttle, if you don't want to go cheap, if you want to go to a restaurant, I'm gonna plug in. You're gonna go to Johnny's Tavern. You're gonna go enjoy a pizza there, or whatever you want, and you're gonna watch some games while you're at it.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna tell you to do. I think Lawrence is more of a chill vibe. It's not one of those places where you're gonna go and like, hey, let's go party, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not that type of guy anyway. So I'm gonna tell you to let's go to some chill spots. And if you want to enjoy the outdoors, let's go golfing. I also like to fish too, so we can go find some fishing spots. I've been enjoying the outdoors this summer. I'm not playing baseball, so I'm having a good time.
You're like, is this what I've been missing the last like 15 years of my life?
I'm like, I never thought I would enjoy, just sitting out there.
So are you a lake guy?
Yeah.
Big lake guy, huh?
Yeah.
So what are you fishing for then?
I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not filleting it personally. My grandpa knows how to do it, but if I catch a catfish, I'm gonna take it home because my family's from the South. They love to fillet, fry it. They'll do that, but not me. But that's probably maybe some crappie. That's some good fish. That's a good fried fish too.
Yeah.
But I'll catch some bass here and there, and there's not too many exclusive things in Kansas, I guess. Fish. But talking to Kenny, like you guys be really interested in going some deep sea fishing.
Have you ever gone?
No, but
I'm
gonna go.
Do you get seasick?
I've never really been on a boat.
Okay.
Like I've never been on a cruise or I've been on a boat, but I haven't been like out there where the waves are kind of
different.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
I need to go.
No, if you got someone who's done it and can give you some advice, Dramamine, that helped me. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. No,
I take Dramamine on planes, so I know.
Yeah, Dramamine helps.
Yeah.
I got to eat before the Dramamine. I did it at one time, and that didn't help.
It's not gonna feel good.
I helped chum the water. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Right.
But it is so much fun, dude. I'm telling you, if Kenny's gone, do it. Like, if you have a chance,
he goes all the time.
Yeah, you need to do it.
Like last night, we were in the
I'm
hotel
mad
watching
deep
sea fishing videos. I haven't gone back home with him.
Okay.
I need to go to Florida with him, but yeah.
No, you'll love it. It's an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Devin, we appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you so much. Always fun to see local guys such as yourself from Lawrence, Chesty High. I remember Brendan saw a game that you played in high school, and he's like, he was an absolute monster. Just so much fun. I'm looking forward. We're all looking forward to seeing you guys play this coming year. Should be a lot of fun. We appreciate it. And got 2 weeks and then training camp starts up, man. All the days. It's not just practice. It's all the days.
Yeah, they don't even understand.
They don't. They really don't.
Understand.
Devin, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
That is Devin Neal, the terrific running back, preseason, first team All Big 12, along with his good buddy Jalen Daniels. So there you go, Brendan. Devin Neal going to be going fishing, but also on the links. He's going to try to lower that handicap coming up here in a few years.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Dan. And thank you to Devin Neal. I'm going to tell you this. I have now lived in Lawrence for the last 10 plus years, give or take. And right around 10, in fact. And if you had not told me that Devin was from Lawrence originally, and then I heard him say, I'm going to take you to Johnny's or I'm going to take you to Pizza Shuttle, I would have said, oh, yeah, Devin's from Lawrence. Oh, yeah. No doubt about that.
That's some hardcore Lawrence native answers of what you're going to show him around to do.
No, that is absolutely awesome. So big thanks to Devin Neal, the Lawrence native and the first team preseason All Big 12 running back, for hopping on with Jake and Dan down in Arlington. We've got more from Media Day coming up. We'll hear from Lance Leipold, who spoke to the guys a little bit earlier on. Coach, absolutely fantastic. And we'll hear as well from some other folks down there. Have a few other interviews lined up. We'll hear some of the action coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. Also, bottom of this hour, we will talk about what Brett Yormark had to say during his opening statement, opening comments to open up Media Days earlier today. I thought some really interesting notes that we will have to get to about some rebranding for the league. Is the Big 12 basketball tournament going to stay in Kansas City long-term? Expansion stuff, all that we'll get to coming up here in just a little bit. Before we get to our first commercial break, though, Fulton, because we didn't really get to intro the show a whole lot. Hey, when the first team All Big 12 running back is right there waiting for you, you don't wait for the end of the news.
We make the changes for Devin, and we'll work around what Devin needs to do.
Aside from his favorite Lawrence pizza choices, what stood out to you about that conversation with Devin?
The big thing for me is kind of the understanding for Devin of going into year 3, the changes he's making overall to kind of maybe almost streamline his process here, making the big decision to drop baseball so that he can maybe focus a little bit more on some other things and really not overextend himself too much. And then also just the awareness of what he needs to do physically to make sure his body can hold up to the rigors of the Big 12 and everything like that. Those are the things that, we do hear a lot of guys talk about as they get older and go through the later stages of their college football career. But hearing that Devin hit that point and hearing how he seems to have these processes and understanding what he needs to be and what he needs to do to make sure he's as successful as he can be in the best version of himself. That's always just very refreshing to hear, even if it's not anything really new or groundbreaking. It's just refreshing to know that those things are at the forefront of his mind.
Yeah, that's extremely important. And I'm fascinated what it is going to look like going a whole year where he can rest up after getting banged up last year because he had to carry such a huge workload, not having baseball, to get in the weight room a little bit more. You heard him tell the guys, and they noticed that, hey, you look a little bit bigger. Yeah, he looks a little bit bigger. He's a built dude. He always has been built, but now he looks like he's chiseled out of granite. And I'm excited to see what he can do with a full year of just football and just working on his football body. Jake mentioned, I remember seeing him play in high school at Lawrence High, and you just knew. Like, if you saw him, there's always guys you see, and we've seen it with athletes in our city. You see it if you cover good high school football programs anywhere in the country. You just know. You see guys, and you just know, yeah, that's a dude. That guy's going to play. Tevin Jenkins is a name that stands out. You saw him play at Topeka High. Yeah, that dude's going to be great. You can just tell with certain guys that they get a little bit bigger, they get a little bit more technique refinement, I guess would be the way to phrase that, and they're just going to be a star. You could tell from the very beginning with him, and he's been great at KU. I believe, and I don't think I'm wrong about this, I believe he is the only returning 1,000-yard back in the conference this year.
I think you're correct.
I believe that's the case. And you bring that back in with another year of an experienced offensive line, same system. You've got your superstar quarterback back. You've got your number 2 option at running back. And Highshaw could be a starting running back in a lot of places. That really is a solid 1-2 punch. I think Neal's in for a huge year, and having a full year to dedicate to just football, I think is going to take him to the next level. Also interesting that he's one of the guys who tells Jalen Daniels, dude, stop taking hits. Let me take those hits. But it's true. KU is a different team. And I think KU's got one of the best backup quarterbacks maybe in the entire country, because usually you lose your starter, you're in deep trouble. KU can at the very least stay competitive offensively with Jason Bean in there, but Jalen Daniels is the one. He is. We just talked to a legit superstar just a moment ago in Devin Neal, but Jalen Daniels is the franchise. He's the preseason offensive player of the year in the conference. He has, that superstar energy to him. You got to have him on the field. So I think it is smart, and I'm sure the coaching staff has worked with him as well as his teammates and himself personally, that, hey, instead of trying to get 10 yards on 1st and 10 and taking a huge hit, take 8. Step out of bounds, take 8, slide, take 7, 8 yards, 9 yards. You can live with that. Live to play another day. Trust that you're going to be able to pick up that extra yardage. Now, obviously, you get to bowl game, bowl, what is the word I'm looking for? Eligibility on the line, or, conference championship, bowl game, championship on the line. Yeah, you're going to risk it all, but you don't need to take the big hit all year long. And I hope that if KU can stay a little bit healthier this year, we're going to get a full year of 100% Devin Neal, full year of 100% Jalen Daniels. And this should be one of the best offenses in the country. There really should be no bones about that. We're just getting started today on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzynski, Fulton Caster here with you. Little mix and match action on our 2 shows this week. We're getting to your texts throughout the day today. Text line number 785-272-9429. Our YouTube channel live and streaming throughout the day. Sports on 580 WIBW is where you can find us on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe. Check out all the interviews that Jake and Dan had during Mic'd Up today. And, of course, stay tuned throughout the show. We're with you until 6 here on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up this hour, we're going to play a little One Gotta Go coming up in just a moment. We will also talk about Brett Yormark later on this hour, his comments to open up Media Day today. We've got more interviews in the 4 and 5 o'clock hours. What is wrong with you? Tim Fitzgerald will join us to preview K-State Day tomorrow. All that is coming up on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk.
are disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
Well, gotta go.
Time for our usual Wednesday round of One Gotta Go on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Fulton Caster here with you on this July 12th. 4 new head coaches into the Big 12 this year. One of them's got to go. You've got Kalani Sitake at BYU, Scott Satterfield in his first year at Cincinnati. Throw in Dana Holgorsen, Holgo at Houston. And then, of course, Gus Malzahn at UCF. One's got to go.
I feel like this you can immediately split into two sections. You got your two who are pretty safe. Kalani Sitake and Gus Malzahn.
Mm-hmm.
Those two, good, solid head coaches. Put them in the little corner.
Yep.
It comes down to Scott Satterfield or Dana Holgorsen. And I'll be honest, I don't know which of these two I like less. Dana's personality has always rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and he seems like he just does not care anymore what he's doing at Houston. And then I'll be honest, I don't think Scott Satterfield is a Power 5 head football coach. I don't think he showed that at Louisville, and I don't think that's going to change going to Cincinnati. That all being said, I think Holgo is a little bit of a better football coach. So I'm going to say Scott Satterfield's got to go.
I think you could take either one of those and make a fair argument for Satterfield. Is he really all that good of a coach? And I kind of have my doubts that he is, to be completely honest with you. For Holgo, it really comes down to he has had success, but also does he really have his heart in it at this point? Yeah. The vibes were bad for Houston last year.
They were horrendous.
I am going to say move on from Dana. I like Dana Holgerson's personality. I think he is funny, whether it's intentional or not. I think it's at least funny to pay attention to Dana Holgorsen. But I'm going to take him out because Scott Satterfield, new environment. Maybe things will be a little bit different. Maybe he will mesh better with Cincinnati than he did at Louisville. I don't know that he will, but I'm at least going to. I don't really know that he deserves the benefit of the doubt, but he had a lot of success at App State. He won a lot of football games at App State before he ended up at Louisville. Maybe it was just a bad clash there. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I watched a number of Houston games last year. I know what their roster looks like this year. I'll pass on Holgo.
That's fair. I can respect that on either front. Funny enough, exact same concept for my one got to go for you. Just a little bit of a different cast of characters. 4 new mascots in the Big 12 this year. You got Shasta from Houston, Cougar. You got Nitro the Knight at UCF. You got Cosmo the Cougar at BYU. And then you have the Bearcat of Cincinnati. One's got to go. And we're talking the physical person in costume mascot.
Yes, because there is a live Shasta as well.
Yes, there's also a live, it's not, I think, specifically a Bearcat, but Cincinnati also has a live mascot.
That'd be kind of sick if it was. All right, so this is easy for me.
Okay.
You got to get rid of one of the Cougars.
You don't want to double up on the Cougars?
You cannot have, it is, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I am just going to say you cannot have 2 Cougars. I am going to leave the rest of that alone.
Sure, smart man.
So the Bearcat stays.
Okay.
Is it just the Bearcat?
As far as I can find, it's just the Bearcat.
Nitro stays. Great name.
Yeah, Nitro might be the best name of the 4.
So it's either Shasta or Cosmo.
Who are you getting rid of?
And I'm going to tell you this. I feel bad. I've been picking on the University of Houston. I think I'm getting rid of Shasta. Shasta's got a cool story. The history of Shasta at Houston, very cool. I've never seen Shasta dance like I've seen Cosmo Cougar dance.
Yeah, I've seen Cosmo do enough fanciful acts doing different things that I can't get rid of Cosmo.
I'm a big mascot guy. I don't know if you know that. I love mascots.
I feel like I've known that about you.
And I am going to side with the mascot that has gone viral for their stunts and dances and whatnot. I have not seen Shasta, although I believe Shasta the Cougar at Houston was involved in one of the funniest mascot moments of all time. I believe it fought the Oregon Duck.
Did it? Did Shasta fight the Oregon Duck?
There is a viral video. Yes, a 54-second video. I have it up from YouTube from 2007. I don't know if this might have even been before that. But yes, the Duck was out there flaunting his stuff, doing what he does. Walks up to Shasta. Shasta shoves him, and then they fought. The cheerleaders tried to break it up. They're just kind of literally pawing at each other, kind of slapping faces, and then they end up actually fighting. And it's awesome. So Shasta's got that, but I like the dance moves from Cosmo, so he gets to stay.
That's fair enough. I respect it.
Yeah, the duck kicks him. Shasta's doing push-ups. The duck comes up, kicks him, and then hits him with a Randy Savage elbow drop. And then they brawl. It's awesome.
That sounds like peak content.
I had forgotten about this.
I would probably have to say the Bearcats got to go for 2 reasons.
Really?
One, it doesn't have a name. Mascots should have a name. In some way, you should have a name for the mascot and the person in the mascot suit. I don't care what the name is, but like KU isn't just the Jayhawk. It's Big J. It's Big J. It's Baby J. We've got Willie the Wildcat. It's Willie in the costume. Like, it's just Bearcat. That's where I lean there. And also, I keep 2 Cougars for this reason. BYU's Twitter account today did what they needed to do, and they recreated the Spider-Man meme with the Cougars. And that, to me, proves me I need both Cougars. I'm a 2 Cougar man.
Okay. All right. Fair. Yeah, it is just Bearcat.
Yeah, it's just Bearcat.
Yeah. They do have a live mascot that is ugly as sin. It's called a Binturong.
Yeah, the newest one is named Lucy.
Yeah, it's ugly as hell. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sin. Okay. No, I see where you're going. I want the diversity, but I see what you're saying.
I respect the diversity. I need mascots to have names. They must be named.
No, that's fair.
You can't just be, I'm the Longhorn.
What about the Oregon Duck? That's just the Duck. He's got a nickname, but his full name is just the Duck. And he's one of the greatest mascots of all time.
And that's fair. He would always get to stay because the amount of antics that the Oregon Duck has been a part of. Plus, it's one of the best overall costumes.
Yeah, that's true. Mark in the YouTube comments says he's a big mascot guy, too. I appreciate that. Someone else standing with the mascots.
The new NCAA football game, I'm taking over a tangent for a minute. The new NCAA football game better include an ability to play with mascots again.
That was always one of my favorites, the mascot game.
Yes.
Always a blast.
Yes.
We do have to
right
get
there
to,
with you.
We do have to get to another timeout. Brett Yormark had a lot to say to open up Big 12 Media Days today. We'll break down some of what he said up next on 580 Sports Talk. 3:45 on 580 Sports Talk, just getting things started today. I'm Brendan, he's Fulton. K-State Day tomorrow, but we'll preview what K-State is going to be talking about with Tim Fitzgerald. He's going to join us later on in the 4 o'clock hour. Also today, we'll re-hear from Lance Leipold. He spoke to Jake and Dan earlier today. We'll play that back for you, get to hear what head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, had to say. We've also got some more interviews coming up next hour. What is wrong with you? Our 580 Sports Talk headlines all coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. Brett Yormark, though, he opened up Big 12 football media days right about noon today, at least the press conference portion of the day, and had a number of things that piqued my interest, some more important than others. Here's one that sucks. I'm going to give you one that is absolute garbage. And we know this is not just us who feels this way, because Jake tweeted about it, and the official Keisha Twitter account replied to him, quote tweeted him with a thumbs down. Not at Jake, but at Commissioner Yormark. The Big 12 is apparently exploring more Thursday and Friday games for their next, or in the new TV contract. Putting more games on Thursdays, more games on Friday. Here's your big problem with that. Other than the fact that just in general it blows. Thursday is now an NFL day. I know that ESPN puts a Thursday night college football game on. I know that, in fact, sometimes they have two. They'll have an East Coast game and they'll have a West Coast game, or maybe Fox or CBS will put one of those games on. Well, FS1 or CBS Sportsnet. Friday, but you're going up against the NFL anyway on Thursdays. Yeah. You've got, that is always going to be the draw, even when it's on Amazon. Friday is a high school football day, and it is everywhere in the country. Let that be. Do not put more games there. It puts you at a disadvantage, and I know why KU has done it. I've heard the logic. That doesn't mean I like it. I know the logic, even though I don't like it. I've been very adamant that I don't like it. All of us here on this radio station have been. But it hurts you recruiting-wise. You can't go out and watch games. You can't go out and see those players after games. And if you add more of those, it won't just be KU and KU's prospective recruits. It could be K-State. K-State is a Friday game this year. They play at 6:30 on a Friday night down in Stillwater. That's games in Oklahoma. It could be games in Texas. Can you imagine the coaches at Texas Tech or Baylor not going out to a Friday night football game in Texas because, oh, sorry, we got to coach our own game?
That might be the biggest one, is that, you have such a footprint in Texas, and you're asking those schools in that area to put more of the Big 12 on Friday nights. Whereas high school football, like Friday nights in the state of Texas, is high school football, and that's it. Like that is nearly a religion to those people.
So I just think it's a terrible idea.
It's a horrendous idea. It's very stupid.
The Activities Association hates it, and they should. Everyone should hate it. It is just the worst. Stay on Saturdays. That is fine. That is totally fine. The other things that stood out in terms of the culture of the Big 12 and the brand building of the Big 12, they're going to have a halftime performer that will have an on-TV aired concert at the Big 12 championship game coming up this year. Any initial thoughts who it's going to be?
I think they should have one of the greatest bands of our generation in Creed.
Creed did, in Dallas, put on one of the greatest football concerts of all time.
Yes.
What was that, 99?
I think.
They played Thanksgiving Day in Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
And I will ride that joke until the wheels come off.
Scott Stapp's finest hour. Primus is my pick. I want to hear John the Fisherman during halftime of the Big 12 championship game. Also, next year, new logo for the Big 12. I was hoping it was going to be today. It's going to be next year. It seems like a minute detail. Like, if you do everything else right, who cares what the logo looks like? No, you want that logo everywhere. That logo is going to be at all of your stadiums. It is going to be on the major TV networks. It is going to be in Rucker Park when you have your Big 12 at Rucker Park basketball thing. It's going to be in Mexico when you're promoting there. You need to kill it. That logo needs to look great. It needs to be sharp. It needs to be modern. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know how many designs you could really go with. I would love to just modernize the old logo. I know bevels are out, but the old beveled Roman numerals, not the new kind of cartoony one. I would love just an update of the old logo. We'll see. You cannot screw that up, though. If you're this big on branding, you have to actually have a good brand.
Yeah, with how much Brett Yormark spoke today about branding and about the Big 12's brand and making sure, he talked so much about like being at like the crossroads of culture and everything today. You can't screw up this new logo. And like you said, it seems like a small thing, but this new thing is going to be everywhere. And so you have to make sure it looks right in whatever you want to do. I don't know what they're probably thinking about. I don't know if they're going to, move away from the Roman numeral aspect of the Big 12, because that's been the way the Big 12 has been logoed for Lord knows how long at this point. I don't know if there was anything new they could do, because problem like if they went with the B and then just a regular Arabic numerals 1 and 2, well, you're beginning to look like a Big 10 knockoff at that point. And so I'm really curious as to what that plan's going to be next year.
The other things that I think are worth noting here, one, talked about trying to keep the championship events for all the major sports where they currently are. They're going to be in Dallas, Arlington, through at least 2030 for the football championship. Fine. Keep baseball where it is in Arlington as well. Keep softball where it is. Fine. Eventually got to basketball, and he was asked, hey, what about basketball in Kansas City? He said they've had discussions with local leaders. They'll see where it goes. For now, they're planning to keep that in Kansas City too. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that's going to happen. I understand what he said today. I understand that Kansas City does a great job with it. I am not denying that. But when you're talking about everything's bigger in Texas and, Oklahoma for softball, that is the capital of softball, essentially, in America. And you can put things in Arlington and brand new Globe Life Park and Jerry World and bigger cities, bigger markets, more bright lights. Then you got Kansas City, which really isn't that. As much as some people want it to be, it really just isn't. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but yeah. I do not think the Big 12 basketball tournament will permanently be in KC. It is a perfect venue for it. It is still, when you expand further west and now further east, it is still a central location, even if it is beneficial to KU, K-State, Iowa State, travel and fan-wise. It's a great location. They do a great job. I just don't think it's a big enough stage or a bright enough stage to keep it for the permanent future. Additionally, I thought this sounded like a little bit of a backpedal, and I'm curious what you thought. Chris Budden of ESPN was doing the fireside chat with him. You heard that on Mic'd Up earlier today, right after he was done with his initial press conference. Yormark is who I'm speaking of. And she asked about expansion. Said, you said a year ago you were open for business. You mentioned that on your PowerPoint slide just now. And Yormark said, people really ran with that, but that didn't just mean realignment. That meant branding. That meant expanding in other ways that don't just include new teams. That means a whole lot. Says they have a plan for realignment, but right now they're not going to share it. That sounded to me, Fulton, like a backpedal. And I understand, and I think you can certainly rationalize that, no, business is more than realignment. Business is branding. Business is new TV contracts. Business is this, that, and the other thing. But we've heard about realignment so much, and he has not exactly quelled any of it until now. The open for business comment at the time, the context of it was certainly realignment. The comments he made to BYU TV a week or 2 weeks ago about how he would love to get to 14 teams, that was, again, not very long ago at all. So to me, this is a little bit of a backpedal, and hey, let's not make all of Media Day about realignment. It's there, but it's on the back burner, and we're focusing on other things. So I'm not saying it's bad necessarily, but this does feel like a shift in messaging that maybe we are, at least for now, beyond the realignment phase of the entrance into the new era of the Big 12.
I'm with you. It sounded like something like that to me, because so much of what Yormark has talked about has been about, being very open about talks with different teams, different schools, potentially expanding the reach of the Big 12 and other footprints they'd want to go into in other markets and things like that. It feels like it was more definitely of a conscientious effort to take some of the focus away from realignment for Big 12 Media Days, to make sure that all the focus was on the current 14 members and really the 12 members that matter, than the 2 people we'd like to get out of here as soon as possible. And everything like that. So I feel like it was a backpedal, but in the strategic sense of, I want to make sure we are focusing on the present for today's and tomorrow's sessions and not too far into the future of what may or may not ever come.
By the way, Yormark said that this is going to be a year to celebrate the newcomers, the teams that are staying, and even Oklahoma and Texas.
Boo.
Absolutely not.
No.
I am not going to celebrate Oklahoma and Texas.
Never.
I am going to cheer when they leave. I am done with them. 100 years of history with Oklahoma. KU in Oklahoma, K-State in Oklahoma. Most of the conference in Oklahoma have played darn near every year for almost 100 years. See ya. Bye. You don't want to be a
Toodles.
part of it? Get out. I don't care. I don't care if they win the league
Don't
this
let
year.
the door hit you, and then you know what when you leave.
I'm not going to celebrate them, and I'm going to celebrate when they leave and when we can finally be done with them in Texas for sure. We've got to get to a break. We got the national and local news coming up. More interviews next hour. Tim Fitzgerald also going to stop by next hour. What is wrong with you? All that and much more in the 4 o'clock hour coming up on 580 Sports Talk. 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Fulton Caster. We're back here with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. First day of Big 12 Football Media Day is going on down in Arlington. KU Day today, K-State tomorrow. We'll talk a little K-State this hour, though, as Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com joins us for the Azura Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. He's down in Arlington. Vacation all wrapped up, so we'll talk to Fitz all about what we'll hear from Chris Kleiman and the K-State players coming up tomorrow. We'll hear from Chris Pesman, the athletic director of Houston, here in a few moments. Very interested to hear what he has to say. The most... I don't know. I'm trying to think of the superlative to use for Houston. I think they have a chance to be the program in the best position to succeed long-term athletically of the new schools. Not that UCF or Cincinnati or BYU can't have success, but given the recruiting base, given the money, given the fairly recent success for Houston in numerous sports, I think they are the most primed to have sustained multi-sport long-term success. I guess that's the way to phrase it. Multi-sport. Men's basketball. Maybe not this year in football, but football generally speaking. UCF. I think the football is going to be pretty good this year. Basketball is not very good. Cincinnati, kind of a transition period for both of its major men's programs. BYU basketball, I would have some worries about going into next year. Football, kind of a question mark for me. So we're going to hear from Chris Pesman here in a minute. We'll preview that momentarily, but I think this is a fascinating interview from one of the most important figures for a new team that is entering the Big 12, get his perspective on the league. We've also got What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply later on this hour. We'll get to your texts. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, you can head to YouTube and check out our live stream on our channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. The full name is Sports on 580 WIBW. You can subscribe right from the search window. You can check out our back catalog of shows, including what was a great edition of Mic'd Up from Arlington today. You can go back and rewind today's episode, check out the back catalog, all of our other video content that is on our YouTube channel, again, called Sports on 580 WIBW. But without further ado, Fulton, let's get to this interview that Jake and Dan, Laban and Lucero, respectively, did with Chris Pesman, who is the athletic director, technically vice president for athletics at the University of Houston. And one of the most fascinating things about the transition for Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, to me, and we talked about this on yesterday's show, is how are they going to acclimate to the grind of a Big 12 schedule? And that really applies both football and basketball-wise. Basketball is a gauntlet, as we know. But for football, you don't get East Carolina, right? You don't get, and I'm sorry to the Pirates for the stray there, but you don't get Temple, okay? You don't get USF in a down year. The worst team in the Big 12 most years, now the Kansas is not a doormat anymore, because for a while there, this wasn't the case. There's no doormat in the league. West Virginia is going to be pretty bad, but you might not even play West Virginia depending on who you are. It is a grind week in, week out. What is that adjustment going to be like? What are the financial ramifications going to be like? How good is Houston in this case going to be? I think there's a lot of fascinating questions for these new teams. So without further ado, let's get to this conversation from down at Jerry World in Arlington today. Chris Pesman, the vice president for athletics at the University of Houston, talking with Jake Laban and Dan Lucero from Big 12 Football Media Days.
Here at Big 12 Football Media Days here in Arlington, Texas, here at AT&T Stadium at the goal line, which is what everyone is going to be trying to get to here come the Big 12 title game, including very first-year member, the Houston Cougars. And we bring in the director of athletics, Chris Pesman, joining us. And it's a big deal. How excited right now, one, are you? Your smile says it all right now. But just the school, the athletic department, the city of Houston, Houston alumni. I mean, this was the goal from the get-go. Tell me what's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, this is it. We've been hoping and wanting this moment for decades, and now to be here and, July 1st coming and going. And, that was a little anticlimactic just because it'd been about a year and a half in the making. And, our first game at home in football is TCU. So that's our first Big 12 game. And that's really kind of with UTSA opening the season, that's what we got our eyes on. But, it's hard to put into words. It really is. I mean, the excitement, the enthusiasm. I mean, we've sold 7,000 new season tickets, and we still have, 2 months to go till the season starts, or 7 weeks. It's palpable. I use the ticket number just as a representation of how much interest there is. I mean, it's fun. I live in a mixed university neighborhood where I get A&M, Baylor fans, all that, and I wear my U of H stuff when I go work out. And they're all yelling "Go Cougs" when I go walking, and it's just everybody's bought in the city and couldn't be more excited about what's coming.
So take me through. You've been the AD since 2017. This is your alma mater. I mean, you bleed this joint. So Brett Yormark, did he hit you with the "you up" text? Like, how did that all go down when all of a sudden he takes over and he's different, man? He is. I mean, we're talking international Big 12 right now. You guys are going to be going down. We'll get to that in a second. But how did it happen? How did he reach out to you guys?
Well, actually it was Bob when we were brought in. And that it was interesting because I got a call Sunday night and we talked to Commissioner Bowlesby Monday to set up the meeting for later in the week. But I got a call the night before. It was like, hey, it's not looking good. And so it was a panic, anxiety-filled night as we worked through that. And fortunately, it went our way. And that's why you never take these moments for granted, because you're not quite sure what's at play, what's happening behind the scenes. It always feels like there's 3 guys in the room that are making a decision and you're not one of them. And so there's always that anxiety and just angst about how this is going to play out. But that moment that it happened, it became official for us Friday that week. And it's surreal. I don't know how else to say it, because I'm sitting there looking at Commissioner Bowlesby, and I got our board chair, Tillman Fertitta, and our president, Renew. And we're sitting there and we're like, we've been hoping for this and wanting this moment for so long, and now it's here, and just to have it come together. And I would tell you, even up until about 2 or 3 months ago, I'd still have fans say, hey, are we still getting in? I mean, there's just these scars from like an abusive relationship from, a long time ago. And now everybody's getting through that, but couldn't be more excited for what's coming this fall.
So do you start planning ahead now because of the money influence that you're going to get? So do you look at it, okay, coming up in 24, 25, 26, all right, we're going to get, because the new contract's $50 million coming from the American. Yeah. I mean, we're talking, you're now with the Joneses. So have you guys already put together, committees and groups to try to figure out what are we going to do with all this extra money that we weren't expected to have?
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time this last fall. We built a 5-year pro forma looking out and how we're going to reinvest that money. And so our first initial phase is getting into the Big 12 is we need to make sure we're doing really well in our revenue sports and we're supporting them the right way. So football and basketball we've invested in heavily. As you've seen Dana and Kelvin's salaries and the operations budgets we built around them. Second part of that is we have to maximize the opportunity that's coming with the Big 12. So we're building up our front-facing revenue units, development, ticket sales, marketing, and then also as we get into the student-athlete health and welfare, which is something that's on everybody's forefront. But when I first got there, we got $1 million was our TV distribution. We hit the lottery about 3 years ago with our new TV deal. It was a 12-year $1 billion deal, and we went to about 5.5 this year. I think it was about 7. But then first year in the Big 12 is a partial share, then a partial share year 2, year 3 is a full share, and it's in the mid to high 40s. It changes everything. And, we're right after this season, we're starting a football operations project that'll be about $140 million. So the investments that we're putting back into the department and program, I couldn't have even considered those in a realistic way before. Other opportunities, Alston money, which is a newer opportunity that we can help fund kids' academics. That's a $2.5 million bill that we didn't have a way to fund before. And now those are things that we can reinvest back into our student athletes. The other part is we've been heavily subsidized by campus to get to this point. I mean, a lot to help us get to this point. We have to be responsible financially and walk that back down. But, the hard part about this is you focus a lot on the money during these transitions, knowing that how do I move it? How do I shape it to get it to the right places as we grow? And, at the end of the day, being around the kids flying up here today, that's what I crave and miss. That's what this is all about. And that's what I get so excited about for our kids to be able to compete at this stage and have this level of visibility.
Our guest is Chris Pesman, the Vice President for Athletics at the University of Houston, joining us live from Big 12 Media Days here in Arlington. Chris, we didn't have phrasing like Power Five back in the early 90s, but the Southwest Conference was big-time football that Houston was a part of for many years. And then when that conference dissolved, some schools went one way. Houston went to Conference USA and spent many years in Conference USA, then with the American Conference. So in many ways, this represents a return to power college football. How much does this mean for some of your older alumni, your older players who remember the big moments, the big matchups in the Southwest Conference, now getting back to having some of that atmosphere and some of those stakes playing in the Big 12?
It means everything. Look, I grew up in the Southwest Conference. I played, I was going to go to SMU, and that's when the death penalty played out. And I was going to walk on, but I single parent, it wasn't going to work. And so I walked on at Houston, Baylor, TCU, Tech. Those games mean everything to our fans because that's what we grew up with. And then, being Power Five, being in the Southwest Conference, then being left out, and then playing in the Conference USA, it was hard for our fans to cope with that. And what I appreciate so much about this move with realignment is the regionality for us. And that's what gets lost in a lot of this realignment move, whether it's, schools going halfway across the country. We don't have to do that. The bulk of our league is in Texas or in the border states. Oklahoma State, even though they weren't in the Southwest Conference, those resonate with our fans and the people that played. I mean, I think about the guys I played with. We beat Texas several times when I was there. They still remember that. I mean, I remember the game I remember most from college, even though A&M's not in the league, was beating A&M in 1990 when they had Bucky. And that's what people remember. And that's what we're getting back to. And that's what gets everybody so excited. And it resonates not just within our community, but within the city.
Most important factor sometimes in success, you got to have the right coaches and players, but it's a want-to that starts at the administrative level, that extends to your fan base, it extends to your boosters. Want-to matters so much. I sense that there's a lot of want-to at the University of Houston to not just be good in the Big 12, but to be a contender year-round in all sports in the Big 12. What is that level of want to? How do you see that reflected as the vice president of athletics when you interact with the fans, with the boosters, donors, people like that at the university?
Sure. I'd answer it a couple ways. The want to is, look, we're not going there to take a check or just to get paid. This is our opportunity to ascend and grow and to be what I feel like we were in the American and Conference USA. We want to be one of the top programs across the board, period, in the Big 12. We're in a population in the biggest city in what is now the Big 12 with Houston. We need to help carry that market and deliver that for the Big 12. But going back to the fans and the administrative commitment, I mean, we've done $400 million in construction in the last 10 years in athletic facilities. And when you guys come on campus, you'll see what we've done. We're just getting started. Our ceiling's really high. I'd tell you our floor is really high. I think we have a chance to be, a flag bearer for this league as we move into the future. Now, the next couple of years, we're going to get busted a few times. It's going to be a tough transition, but we're going to get there, and it's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years where we're competing for conference championships year in, year out.
A few more questions with the director of athletics, Chris Pesman of the Houston Cougars. All right, have you seen the recruiting already impact this? That's the one thing everybody, up here in Kansas, it's, will Texas, will TCU, will Baylor, will Texas Tech want another Texas school? Because I don't know, Houston's got some talent.
Yeah.
So have you seen that, hey, you get to play those guys now? So has recruiting already impacted?
Absolutely. I'll use football as an example. Using recruiting rankings, I'll use that because it's apples to apples. But I want to say like 6 of our top 10 all-time recruits have come in the last 2 years with Dana once this announcement has come through. The other part that we really can participate in and is a huge advantage for us is the transfer portal being in the city. So many kids left and went away because we didn't have the option of Power 5 football for us. And now they see that opportunity to do it at home. We've already gotten commitments from kids in the city. And if you go look at our current recruiting class, they're all from the blue blood programs that are in the state. I mean, the programs that you want to have pipelines into, but also the kids that want to come back and play at this level in the city. We're seeing that already, and it's paid out for us really well this last spring in the transfer portal. And I'll let Dana tell you a little bit more about the players, but it's interesting. The transfer portal changes the roster so fast. I think we've got like 45 new kids that weren't on our roster last year, but almost all of them had P5 experience or P5 capability. Wow. And that's what's exciting.
Alrighty, have to talk about this. We're just down the road from Lawrence, Mexico. Mexico City basketball. You got Bill Self, Kelvin Sampson going to play. It's a non-conference game. How did that all go about? This is part of the new Brett Yormark vision. Did he reach out to you and said, hey, I want to send KU and Houston. I want the first game that they can play. It's not conference. It's going to be in Mexico City coming up. How did that come about?
Yeah, so what Brett's doing a really good job of, and obviously the TV contract gets a lot of visibility, but the other things that he's doing to create intellectual property that he can monetize down the road, whether it's the combine that's going to be here in Jerry World for football, Mexico City, games in Rucker Park, all of that goes into this external effort that he's working to help close the gap for us as we move ahead. But for when that came out, or that idea came out from Brett, for us it's a no-brainer. Being in the city of Houston, our access to Mexico, Mexico as a country is our largest country outside the U.S. that we recruit to for students. We've got a huge international population. So it's natural for us to want to have that visibility down that market. And obviously the visibility of our men's basketball program, and basketball, I think, translates so well internationally. And there's so much opportunity in Mexico. The amount of money that's flowing over the border both ways, we'd be foolish to ignore that. And given our proximity, lean into it. And that's what gets me really excited about what Brett's doing for us.
Well, we appreciate the time. Exciting stuff here for Houston. I can't wait for the upcoming season. It should be a lot of fun. We appreciate the time.
I appreciate you guys having me here. We couldn't be more excited to be here with you and look forward to doing this again in the near future.
So that is the vice president of athletics for the Houston Cougars. Appreciate him stopping by and talking with Jake and Dan earlier today down in Jerry World. Interesting stuff, I think, from Pesman. I don't know if I know your opinion on this matter. Are you yay or nay on the Mexico games?
I'm kind of
Okay.
Like, I get the idea. You want to try and expand the footprint, expand things like that. Mexico is a place where you got a lot of great sports culture, but I don't know if it's the right move.
The point that Pesman just made about having a lot of students at Houston and recruiting just not necessarily athletes, but students from Mexico, I think it's good for Houston. That makes sense. Yeah. They're actually a part. I read this from Matt Brown, our friend from the Extra Points newsletter, I believe, wrote this originally where I learned it. There's a new group, the HSRU. It's the Alliance of Hispanic Serving Research Universities. And there's 20 schools, 11 of which come from Texas, and includes the University of Houston, that you have to have a certain percentage of students, whether they're undergrads, doctoral, postgrad, whatever, that are of Mexican heritage or from Mexico. And actually, the Big 12 just added a couple of them. Houston and UCF are both a part of this. Texas is too, although they're leaving. UTEP, UTSA, Illinois, Chicago, a handful of California schools, Boulder, Arizona State. A lot of these make a lot of sense. And I can understand why for him it would sound like a no-brainer. I'm still kind of out on the whole thing. Again, similar to the Friday night football scheduling games, I get the logic. I understand. Like, you tell me why you're doing a thing, I get why. I just don't think it's a good idea. I just happen to disagree with it. The same kind of thing here. I get it, but do you really think it's going to click the way you want it to click? Maybe. I think football, if it's one single football game, if it's a bowl game every year, I think there's a better chance of that working. And that's still several years down the line if that ever comes to fruition, because American football is a big deal in Mexico. There's a lot of fans of American football, even if they're not college football fans. It's spectacle enough you might be willing to go see it. Are people dying for college basketball in Mexico? I don't know. I do not know. I have not done the research on that. And yes, if there's a connection to Houston, that's good for them. I'm sure plenty of people have at least heard of Kansas basketball, for example, and this is not going to be in all likelihood the only year of Big 12 Mexico. I just find it to be somewhat curious. Yeah. And I don't know if it's going to work, but I think it's interesting since Houston is involved to get Chris Pesman's perspective on that. Anything else that he said that really piqued your interest?
Just the way that he is kind of been approaching Houston's move to the Big 12 and kind of pointing out that good connection of, Houston is not completely unfamiliar with being in a semi-high profile conference and a high level conference because of some of its past and its history. And while it has not, been there in recent memory because they've been a G5 school for so long, it is not unfamiliar territory for Houston to be maybe part of a little of a bigger conference and a bit of a bigger area and more of a heavily marketed area.
The point about the sort of players they're bringing in, I think, is interesting because it's true. I mean, you can turn over a roster really quickly and add a lot of impact players really quickly. I mean, KU did that with a number of players this past year, specifically on the defensive side. Hell, I mean, the best defensive player on the team last year was Lonnie Phelps, arguably. If you want to say Kobe Bryant, that's fine. But Lonnie Phelps was a transfer. Rich Miller, transfer. Mike Nowitzki, who's still on the team, on the offensive side, transfer. Craig Young from Ohio State, transfer. That's just one example. And look at K-State. Look at what K-State has done with transfers in recent years. Treshaun Ward, preseason newcomer of the year in the Big 12. Julius Brents, second-round draft pick. He was a transfer from another Power 5 program. So if you have the new era of the transfer portal at your fingertips, and you're already in one of the biggest recruiting hotbeds in the country. In fact, and I was looking for a source on this, and I can't find it, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Houston is the number one recruiting hotbed in terms of talent in the Houston metropolitan area in the entire country. And if it's not number one, it's number two, only behind Miami. That's a big deal. There are a lot of good players there. And to that point, a lot of these guys leave. They go out of state. They end up at Alabama or USC or Georgia, wherever, the Florida schools, wherever they end up. If they're going to transfer out, hey, you can come play Power 5 football for a program that you knew was good, but maybe didn't have the spotlight it had before. Now it does. Now we're going to have those games on Big Fox or FS1. We're going to have more games on ESPN instead of ESPN2 or ESPNU. You're going to have that spotlight. You're going to have that sort of attention if you come here. And I don't know. I think that makes a lot of sense personally. Now, will it actually end up working out? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea if it actually is going to come to fruition. Maybe it takes longer for Houston than we originally or initially think. But I think Houston was a very natural fit. I think they were the most obvious of any of the newcomers. I'm happy with all of them. Houston, if you had told me at the peak of Baylor's troubles several years ago, you get to kick someone out, who would you replace them with? I'd kick out Baylor, and it would have taken Houston at the time. So they're a natural fit, and really appreciate Chris Pesman joining the guys down in Arlington, because that was a really, I think, enlightening look into what the process has been like for some of these Big 12 newcomers. We'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald later on this hour about what to expect from K-State coming up tomorrow. But first, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You after this on 580 Sports Talk.
the hell?
Before we get to Tim Fitzgerald, let's talk about some idiots. That means it's time for What Is Wrong With You, of course. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications. That saves your time, your money, and your material. Never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winners for the week, the 3 TSA officers at Miami International Airport who were stealing things from bags and personal items on the conveyor belt at the TSA checkpoint. Cannot be doing that. They were distracting and smiling the passengers, trying to pull them in different directions, get them to look away as they swiped money and goods from their belongings, including one person who had $600 stolen from their wallet.
Poor
Absolutely can't have that. My story for today, Fulton's going to take us back to Las Vegas, where we had a story just yesterday.
Man, Vegas, a city of crazy people.
And we had a gentleman who, as we like to say, was doing the most. A Las Vegas man was accused of recklessly driving over 50 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's strike one. While intoxicated.
Strike two.
Strike two. With a trunk full of illegal fireworks and a gun. Strikes 3 and 4, in fact. Can't be doing that. Jose Angel Valdez de Haro faces several charges, including DUI, disregard for the safety of a person or property, reckless driving with disregard for a person or property, possession of a gun while under the influence, and a fireworks violation. Like Booker T, 5-time accused perpetrator in this case. Back on July 8th at 11:13 p.m., plain-clothed Metro Las Vegas police officers were driving on Rainbow Boulevard near Alta Drive when they saw a black Mercedes driving at a high speed while swerving in and out of traffic. Police said the Mercedes was driving at 96 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone and nearly crashed into several cars that it was swerving in between lanes. The officers pulled the Mercedes over and noticed the driver, identified as Valdez, as having bloodshot, droopy eyes, and he was slow to react. Officers took him into custody when Valdez told them he had a firearm on the front passenger seat. An officer found the gun, which was loaded with a magazine and a round in the chamber in the front seat.
But he was ready.
Oh, yeah, he kept that thing on it. During an inventory search of the car, officers then found a large collection, quote unquote, of aerial fireworks that were still operational in the trunk. They also found numerous THC pens, weed cigarettes, and jars with marijuana residue in the center console. My dude was getting crossfaded as he was about to go fire off a round and some fireworks. He was placed under arrest for the DUI and consented to a blood draw, which was performed at the jail.
I respect him for at least consenting to the blood draw.
Yeah, he said, yeah, man,
I'm caught.
Yeah, I'm done. Who cares? I'm done.
Far too many bad things being happening at once there.
You can't have 4 strikes.
You can't.
Never gonna be able to survive that.
No, you
At least
won't.
as a normal person.
Not at all. Brendan, for my story, we are not going to Las Vegas. We're going to Concord, New Hampshire. You ever been up to New Hampshire?
I have not. Concord is the capital, New Hampshire.
Sure. I'll agree with that.
Right?
I have no idea.
Concord, New Hampshire?
Sure.
Yeah.
I literally don't know the answer to that question. Either way, federal agents have arrested a man who is accused of trafficking tens of thousands of dollars of methamphetamine into New Hampshire.
I was right, by the way. It
Nice.
is the capital.
Oh, well.
It's one of the smaller capitals in the country. It's only got 44,000 people.
Oh, the more you know. Narquin Antonio Sanchez Unbes, who's 23, appeared in federal court on Tuesday afternoon as he's charged with possession, intent, and distribute methamphetamine. Because according to court documents, he allegedly delivered 25 pounds of crystal meth Monday to an undercover agent in Rochester. That's the kind of bad part. The really bad part is how he went about and did it. Because, Brendan, he took an Uber to go deliver this methamphetamine.
He Ubered from Massachusetts to New Hampshire. That's a long way. Now, where in Massachusetts?
That is a great question that I don't believe we have the answer to.
That would be a detail I would like to know because I want to know just how much this Uber cost him. Now, they are bordering states.
Yes.
For what it's worth. But, and Concord is in the southeastern part of New Hampshire. But, I mean, was it coming from Boston? Or was it coming from Springfield? Or was it coming from the far, like, just off of I-90? That is something I would like to know. Regardless, you probably shouldn't do that across state lines. Or at all.
You really shouldn't. He agreed to traffic the drugs in exchange for $58,000.
Well,
so
that would
he's
pay
going
for
to
the
make
Uber.
a very nice payday. Sanchez Unbes is being held by the U.S. Marshals and has the detention hearing scheduled for next Monday. Short, sweet, and simple. My man was not only trafficking meth, he used an Uber to traffic the meth. You gotta have a better plan to traffic the meth.
Hey, what's the Mitch Hedberg joke? I love the FedEx driver because he's a drug dealer and he don't even know it, which is very funny. Not something you should do, but it's
no,
very
please
funny.
don't. Don't traffic drugs, but if you do, please do not use Uber to do it.
I love my Uber driver because he's my getaway driver and he don't even know it. Except he didn't get away because he delivered it to an undercover cop.
He delivered it immediately to an undercover officer.
Who you got?
I think I lean to the man who used an Uber to deliver meth only because the tiebreaker of the other guy was on so many things at once.
I agree, and I think it wins the week. I'm going to pick this as my new weekly winner. 25 pounds.
25
The
pounds
Uber
of
driver's
meth.
got to say, yo, dude, what's going on?
Yeah, that's the bigger question here. I don't know if the Uber driver was somehow also in cahoots with the undercover agent. I don't know. But the fact that man was like, I'm going to take the deal to deliver meth. I'm going to make Here's the thing. If you know you're making $58,000, would you not be willing to spend a little earlier scratch to make sure you're going to get and collect the $58,000 as a business expense?
I mean, you'd think.
Like, if I spend, let's say I spent $4,000 on travel to make sure the meth gets there safely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still pocketing $54,000.
Now, it also didn't really matter because his delivery was to an undercover
Well,
cop,
yes,
so,
that is very, very
kind
true.
of a moot point.
It's
Is that your
very
weekly
true.
winner, too?
I'm with you. Yeah.
We've got a new weekly winner, and What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. We've got to get to a break. Tim Fitzgerald's up next on 580 Sports Talk.
Kansas State victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man is back in town. Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com, the publisher of GoPowerCat, in fact, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go follow him on Twitter, @LifeOfFitz. You can go check out his and his crew's great work at GoPowerCat.com. Fitz, two very important questions for you. Number one, how was your vacation? How was your trip to the American Southeast?
It was fantastic. We scoped out 4 different destinations, see maybe what we want to go back to. And I flew not directly, we flew from Hilton Head, Savannah, to Charlotte, Kansas City, got my wife situated, headed home with all the bags, and flew directly then from Kansas City to here. So I wish I was still in Hilton Head, but I don't know if you know this. Arlington is regarded as the Hilton Head of Texas.
You know, having been to both, I can see that. I can definitely see that. In fact, So Fitz, fun story. I told you this on Twitter a while back. My wife and I are taking a trip to South Carolina in a few weeks, and we'll be in Hilton Head. I've gone to Hilton Head every summer, literally my entire life with my family. So my wife and I saw your pictures you posted your first night there on Twitter, and she goes, Brendan, do you know where Fitz is? And I said, I think I've sat in the same seat that Fitz has sat in before. I know exactly where he is. I was very jealous that you got to experience the beach weather down there in Hilton Head this past week and the other places you got to go. Secondly, maybe more importantly, did Cole and Ryan take care of your car on their trip down to Arlington?
As far as I can tell, it's still good. I don't know. I'm a little shocked, honestly. I'm a little stunned that my car doesn't have more damage to it, but it appears to be okay. We're going to be able to make it home, I think.
Well, let's jump into what we have heard so far at Media Day. Of course, we'll get to K-State and a preview of what's to come tomorrow here in just a moment. But I'm curious, Fitz, what'd you think of what Brett Yormark had to say to lead things off today? I thought his Q&A with Chris Budden from ESPN and especially his opening comments as well, I actually thought there was a lot that piqued my interest.
Yeah, I mean, he's just always well prepared. He was literally on script. I mean, his opening comments were a script. And I think maybe to shoot from the hip a little bit less than he did last year. But, he stuck by the open for business comment, and which he said last year and called a stir because people took that to mean we're open for business to stealing teams from other conferences. But he just meant, we're looking for to do some stuff, and he's proven that. It wasn't all about expansion. Yeah, there's an element there to expansion, but, we've seen Big 12 Mexico, the New York initiative, the media deal that he immediately hammered out. They're, working on a total rebranding. Announced today that they're going to have a new logo in 24 once they get to this 12 version of 12 schools. But they did flip the red Big 12 logo to black, which is, kind of a cool little touch. But he's like a shark, man. He's always in motion. He's always got to be swimming to be living, and he's just fun to watch. It's exactly what this conference needed at the exact right time.
I agree with all of that, but I've got to be honest. When we were told today that the Big 12 is going to look for more Thursday and Friday night football games, I hate it, Fitz. I understand the logic. I get why they want to do it, why they want to be the one show in town. There's no one else on TV on Fridays. You compete against a maybe crappy NFL game that's on a streaming service on Thursdays. I get it. But, man, as someone who covers high school football and cares about it, I hate the idea of Friday nights. I can't get over it. I'm still very pissed off at my alma mater that now 2 or 3 years in a row, they've opened the year with multiple Friday night games. I can't get over it.
I agree with you on the Friday night aspect because, we're used to the Kansas culture, but certainly the Texas culture of Friday night football is enormous, and they've got to be careful. But I also understand that now in this media structure, the way the Big Ten and SEC are going to fill so many of the primary slots, the best stages, they'll get the best ratings because they'll be on ESPN, they'll be on ABC, they'll be on, all the network games. The Big 12 will have its opportunities to be the big game, but those other games that wouldn't be the big game now have an opportunity to step center stage on a Thursday or Friday night. And be an important part of that. We saw the Big 12 do that in its early days. K-State, I remember K-State played a great game with Iowa State on a Thursday night back in the day. And we'll see more and more of that. And, of course, Kansas State plays at Oklahoma State this year on a Friday night. So it's already starting. And you got to get creative. When you're fighting the uphill battle, you got to find a way to be the king of the hill, even if it's on an odd night.
Tim Fitzgerald is our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. It is the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, you can check out all of his great work at GoPowerCat.com from Fitz and, of course, great collection of writers over there at GoPowerCat.com. You can also follow Fitz on Twitter at LifeFitz. Fitz, moving to the actual contingent in the on-football field for K-State specifically here, going into tomorrow with the different players all going down, is there anyone in particular you're excited to talk to from the K-State contingent tomorrow, whether it be any one of the 4 players, head coach Chris Kleiman, AD Gene Taylor, just anyone you're really looking forward to getting to sit down and chat with coming up tomorrow?
Well, as I get older and covering sports, I start to appreciate the quality kids more. And these 4 are great young men. I mean, Will Howard, Cooper Beebe, Daniel Green, who I just think his growth as a person and as a player has been incredible. and Kobe Savage getting his chance to be on this kind of stage. And he is such a fun kid to interview. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Kobe. He's a local kid. His dad I think, is going to try to get in here somehow. I don't know how. It's not open to the public, but he might be in here to watch all this take place. Daniel has handled himself so well last year at this event. To get to come back is pretty cool. But Will Howard, I mean, everyone was talking to Adrian Martinez a year ago, and it just shows how you got to take advantage of your opportunities in life. And if you're ready for the moment, everything can change. And that really sums up what Will Howard did last year. He got forced into action at TCU. He was ready for the moment after years of toiling and honestly being under some, criticism for his performance. And now he's, I picked him as my Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. And I think there'll be good reason for that because I think he's a whale of a football player.
Speaking of Will Howard specifically here, looking at him, he's going into a year from a guy who for a couple of seasons caught a lot of flack from a lot of different people, myself included. I will never, hide that fact.
Same here.
And then now he's undisputed QB1 at Kansas State. He is easily, arguably in the conversation for best quarterback in the conference alongside Jalen Daniels. Right. What do you think is probably going through his mind? And more importantly, how do you think he's going to be able to handle these now expectations upon him coming up this season? The fact that there's probably not any looking over his shoulder or anybody else in that quarterback room. This is Will Howard's show. This is Will Howard's team. Just how do you think that is something he's going to have to deal with going into this season? It all begins tomorrow at Big 12 Media Days because he's the face of at least that offense going into speaking with the media tomorrow and everything like that. Just how he's going to be able, how do you think he's going to handle now being the undisputed QB1?
Well, what's interesting is he, got thrust into action with an injury to Skylar Thompson as a true freshman. And he held up okay. And then, it kind of started to unravel. And then he just wasn't ready the next year. And the amount of growth he's made both on and off the field is stunning. And I think he'll handle himself extremely well. He's really good with the media. He's answered a lot of questions. And he's answered the tough questions. So to watch him now have success is kind of cool. And I think he's been through a lot, and it made him a better person, let alone a better quarterback. And I think he's going to be an elite quarterback this year in the Big 12 as the focus kind of moves to him from Deuce Vaughn. And we'll see what he's made of. But, boy, he made some throws last year when he got called into action that were elite. And if he continues to do that, the NFL is going to take notice.
Fitz, do you draw any parallels between Will and Skylar? And I think they're not obviously they're not perfectly similar to each other, but you go back to the early part of Skylar's career when it was the timeshare between him and Alex Delton and that whole situation. And then it was looking over his shoulder. If he makes a mistake, is there going to be a switch? And it took a little while. But once Chris Kleiman showed up, I mean, Skylar Thompson blew up. And if you had asked me early in his career, is this guy going to play in the NFL? I would have said absolutely not. He ends up not just playing in the league, he gets drafted and starts a playoff game in his rookie season. I mean, that's incredible. Howard, different set of circumstances. He kept coming in because of injuries to Skylar and then Adrian Martinez, but it's no longer you're just the fill-in guy. It's no longer, but when Adrian gets healthy, maybe he'll come back and start again. Do you feel like that's going to lift a weight off of Howard's shoulders kind of in the same way it did for Skylar?
I agree with that. And as mentioned, he's clearly QB1, but he's QB1 and maybe the best quarterback room Kansas State's ever had. There's so much talent in that room, whether you're looking at it as, performance ability or just the star ratings from recruiting services. But he's the guy. He's big. I mean, he's an NFL-sized quarterback at 6'6", 240. He can run the ball, although he hasn't had to show that. I think that's something they may want to show a little bit. But then again, we've been talking about injuries, and the injuries come when you put yourself in peril by running the ball quite often, and that certainly was the case with Skylar and Adrian Martinez. So they probably want to be shy with that, but I think Will Howard took a lot of pride in the fact that he was an effective runner earlier in his career, and now he's regarded as the big slow guy who can't run the football, and he doesn't want to be that guy. He wants to be a multi-dimensional type of quarterback, and he's capable of doing that. I will describe him maybe as a poor man's Josh Allen, big, quarterback, Josh got a really strong arm, can run the ball, but maybe Will can't do it yet at that level, but he has those abilities also, and it's going to be fun to watch him take over that position.
Last couple of questions for Tim Fitzgerald, the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, joining us on 580 Sports Talk for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. Fitz joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You can find his work over at GoPowerCat.com, including the newest edition of the Life of Fitz podcast, and you can find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. All right, last two I've got for you then, Fitz. One player who I know isn't going to be there, but I assume is going to be talked about by the players, by Chris Kleiman, is Treshaun Ward, the transfer running back from Florida State. And for a guy who's never played for this program, I don't know if I've ever seen the kind of hype from other schools elsewhere in the country talking about how good he is and how good he can be in this K-State system. I mean, Florida State fans, the way they talk about him, it makes you amazed. How did he ever leave that program? What is the hype like for Treshaun Ward and what he can do in this initial and possibly lone season for K-State?
Well, it's a perfect fit for him. I mean, he came to a school that has a rich history of knowing how to use small running backs. And when I say a small running back, he's not nearly as small as Deuce Vaughn. I mean, he's going to be a bigger version of that, which is kind of interesting in itself. But yeah, Florida State fans just rave about him. And, not only the quality of player he is, but quality of person he is. And it fits really in well with this program. And I think he'll give them a little bit of that Deuce Vaughn flavoring, and maybe not as good a pass receiver as Deuce was, but also he seems like a guy that's ready to come in and get to work on the stuff he needs to work on. I think DJ Giddens will be the starter. But what he ran into at Florida State was other talented running backs who fit the mold better. When you're at Florida State, you can get that 6'2", 210-pound guy that's more of an NFL running back style that, can be productive for you. And that's been more difficult for Kansas State to do. Thus, they've, dove into the guys like Deuce Vaughn and Darren Sproles and others. They're not the only little guys. So I think he will be productive if he can stay healthy. He was out most of spring or in limited contact with an injury. And, again, he's going to need to grow into the system and understanding what they're trying to do. But all works out, he could be a really great addition to this program.
Last one for you, Fitz, and Dan and I were discussing this on the show last week, and obviously Will Howard is a stud. You've gotten to see his career progress, and you've been very complimentary about KU's Jalen Daniels as well. Is this the best quarterback duo for the Kansas schools at the same time ever?
Probably. I mean, look, I believe Todd Reesing overlapped with Josh Freeman, and while the team wasn't productive, that was a pretty damn good quarterback.
True.
But these two dudes are regarded, by anyone who's really paying attention and not voting for things based on the decals on the side of the helmet. These are the two best quarterbacks in the conference, and I don't think it's even close, guys. When someone brings up the guy at Texas or the guy at Oklahoma or the guy anywhere else, I laugh it off. Jalen Daniels does some really creative, dynamic things that perfect for the growth position that Kansas football's in. Kansas State did the same thing. When you get a dynamic quarterback that can turn a broken play, a bad play into a touchdown, that's an X factor that helps you grow the program. And Will Howard is probably the most traditional pocket passer Kansas State's had since Chad May, who, again, was a quarterback at the right place at the right time and was very productive. But Will's got a whole other level, maybe the highest level of a passing quarterback we've seen, should I say, since Len Dickey. Because Colin Klein and Michael Bishop were certainly the dual threat type of guys. So, yeah, I agree. I think these are probably the two best quarterbacks at the same time in the state schools. It's going to make for some really fun football for fans in the state of Kansas and a really fun game when these two hook up on the football field later this season.
That's so freaking cool. That is so awesome. That legitimately the best talent in a really good, deep league at the quarterback spot is in the state of Kansas. That's absolutely incredible. Tim Fitzgerald, he covers all things K-State for GoPowerCat.com. Check out the new Life of Fitz podcast. Find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. And he joins us here on 580 Sports Talk for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. Fitz, enjoy K-State Day tomorrow at Media Days. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, boys.
That is Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. And with that, we'll take a quick break for the national and local news. We'll come back with 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk after this. more left on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Fulton Caster with you on this Wednesday afternoon, July 12th. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Jake and Dan are down in Arlington for Big 12 Football Media Days, so it's Brendan and Fulton here with you today and tomorrow. A little mix and match week on 580 Sports Talk and Mic'd Up. We've got a busy 5 o'clock hour coming your way. We are going to hear from Lance Leipold and his conversation with Jake and Dan from earlier today. We'll re-rack that for you coming up here in about 15 minutes. We will also get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we will preview day 2 of Big 12 Football Media Days coming up in just a little bit. We're still taking your texts. Text line number, you know it, 785-272-9429. And you can also hop into the comment section on YouTube, where our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Coming up tomorrow, by the way, on the show, coming up tomorrow on the show, sorry, I got a little distracted there momentarily. We will have all the K-State info, all the players who are going to be there, Will Howard, Kobe Savage, Cooper Beebe, and I keep forgetting the other player. Daniel Green. God, I don't know why I keep forgetting. Deuce Green is a superstar. I don't know why I keep saying that or keep forgetting him. But we will have all that content. Chris Kleiman, Gene Taylor. I believe we are going to hear from the athletic director of BYU as well, Tom Holmoe. We're still looking for some other guests as well. So we're going to have a full day of content coming up tomorrow from day 2 of Big 12 Football Media Days right here on 580 WIBW. I do want to get to one text in real quick on the text line, obviously, from the 785. Oh, Lord, the KIN anchor, the Kansas Information News Network anchor, just said that Yormark was in talks to keep the Big Ten basketball tournament in Kansas City. Fulton, you've been called out by the text line.
Not me specifically, the KIN news person.
Oh,
not
the
me.
KIN news person.
Not
okay.
me.
I thought this was our KIN sports anchor.
No. I can guarantee you it was not me.
Okay, good. I was going to say, Fulton,
I proofread my own copy better than that.
As a former 4-year lead anchor for KIN Sports, I never once got a fact wrong or misspoke. Certainly not almost every day.
Certainly not.
Okay.
I certainly don't do that every day on my depth from noon to 3 when that's my usual home.
Thought we were getting a call out. No, Fulton, you're safe for now. You're safe for now.
For now.
We won't call out the others. Anyway, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? And the first one for me, we haven't talked about it at all today, but the win streak is over for the American League in the All-Star game. The National League with a thrilling win in last night's All-Star game. 3-2, Elias Diaz with the go-ahead 2-run home run in the 8th inning. Was it the 8th or the 7th inning?
It was the top of the 8th.
That's what I thought. And the National League comes away with the win. Salvi got a hit. It was kind of weird that Salvi ended up batting right behind Whit Merrifield when they had checked into the game.
That's very funny.
That was
incredibly hilarious.
Yeah, extremely funny. So a surprising outcome. I thought the AL was going to win. 2 things. 1, what do you think of the game? And 2, do you feel like we need more offense in the All-Star game?
So first off, I enjoyed the game. Just from a baseball perspective of how enjoyable of a baseball game it was to watch. I had a great time, including the first 2 outs of the game were 2 of the most fun outs of the entire night. When Adolis Garcia in right field begins every single play looking like Nelson Cruz and then finishes the play looking like Jason Hayward. That, to me, that is the way I can describe to you Adolis Garcia in right field for not just the All-Star game, but for the Texas Rangers in general. But no, Adolis Garcia made a great play, then followed up by Randy Arozarena making a great play, and then Adolis Garcia made another great play later in the game. No, overall, I think it was good. I'm one of the ones that a low-scoring pitcher's duel in the All-Star game I'm cool with because it is usually because of how great the pitching is right now, that every single, it's one thing to face one dude throwing nasty stuff in a game. Literally every guy that took that bump was throwing something horrendously nasty at every hitter. And so I'm not surprised that it's such a low scoring game. And because of that, it kept up the excitement throughout because there was sports tension for all 9 innings because it was never a strong lead for either side.
Craig Kimbrell did everything he could to freak you out in
Listen,
that ninth inning.
Craig Kimbrell did nearly the greatest piece of work ever by making sure Julio Rodriguez got a chance to bat in the bottom of the ninth with a chance to win the game in Seattle. That was absolutely amazing storytelling, and a little bummed that it ended with Rodriguez getting a walk and Jose Ramirez. But if anyone else would have gotten a game-winning hit, it's fitting that it's Jose Ramirez, who I have watched many times make big hit after big hit against my favorite baseball team. But overall, the game itself was very good, and I don't think it needs more offense. I think it's just as fun. I think it just needs to be competitive. Like, as long as it's tight, whether it's low scoring and tight or high scoring and tight, it has to be a close game. The All-Star game can't be blowouts because that's when it's incredibly boring.
I think that's fair. I think it's fine as it is. I saw some complaints today that they should. I saw someone suggest one breaking ball per plate appearance.
That might be the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
To try to generate more offense.
That might be
you're getting all fastballs.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I don't disagree. I just saw. I had not known that there was pushback on the production in the All-Star game until this morning. But I thought it was enjoyable. Yeah. I watched the last third of the game, so I saw the Elias Diaz home run.
You missed Shohei Ohtani's first at-bat, in which the entire stadium broke out into one of the loudest chants I've ever heard of "Come to Seattle." Like, it was a chant so loud that it was coming across clear as day on the Fox broadcast.
He said afterwards,
he likes Seattle. There. He has spent some of his offseason time there.
I do not think they are going to end up getting Shohei Ohtani.
No, probably not.
But honestly, they had until Shohei, the American Japanese or the Japanese player. And that sounds way worse than I mean it to. But like, if you think about Japanese baseball players who came over from Japan and became stars in the U.S., yes, there are many examples, but number one
to the forefront of your mind is Ichiro Suzuki,
but not even close.
Yeah,
and he was a star.
Yeah,
truly.
He won MVP and Rookie of the Year the same year,
which is only I think it was only him and Fred Lynn, right?
I think they're the only two,
at least in the American League.
At least for sure in the American League, I think that's correct.
I think Lynn was 1974. I think. He is still huge and had a very long, illustrious career with the Seattle Mariners. There is a connection there. Nintendo still owns 10% of the Mariners. There are reasons why it would make some cultural sense. And wherever he goes, he's going to be a superstar. Yeah. It'd be cool if it was Seattle.
It'd be really cool, and it fits. And Shohei's relationship with Ichiro was well documented. He reveres that man. Also, it was 1975 for He did play 15 games in 1974, but he won the MVP and the Rookie of the Year in 1975.
Embarrassing.
21 home runs, 105 RBI, 162 OPS plus.
It was a good year.
Fred Lynn was really good.
He was a really good player.
He was really, really good. Sticking with baseball for my first headline here on 580 Sports Talk Headlines. You remember when Rob Manfred said that there was never a plan for the Oakland Stadium to exist, and the Oakland city leaders just had no plans to keep the A's in town?
Mm-hmm.
And then the A's city leadership was like, well, that's a lie.
Yep.
The lie is being fully fought back against, as Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao met personally with Rob Manfred over the All-Star festivities, including providing him and every single MLB owner with a copy of the most recent plan and proposal to build a new ballpark in Oakland as a last-ditch effort to keep the Oakland Athletics from relocating to Las Vegas. This was reported on the San Francisco Chronicle mainly, which in the piece, Tal was quoted as saying, quote, "I did feel it was important to meet with the commissioner in person, given the importance of this upcoming vote by the relocation committee. This decision isn't just about business. How they vote will have a lasting impact on a multi-generational fan base of working families who love this game of baseball and have a deep connection to the Oakland A's. Before undertaking this very consequential vote, I wanted the commissioner and the MLB owners of the relocation committee and all the owners to have the true facts so they can make an informed decision. I continue to fight until the shovel is actually in the dirt." I have the most respect in the world for Mayor Sheng Tao for basically saying to Rob Manfred, not only am I calling you a liar, I am flat out calling your bluff by forcing you to meet me face to face and handing you and every other documentation to go, no, we had a plan for this. You all are just liars.
I think back to when the Rams left St. Louis. And I don't know if this is quite as borderline illegal, but I do think that this is very reminiscent where it was, oh, well, they weren't going to play fair. And, oh, there's really no realistic proposal. And there's no way that this could possibly work, when in reality, it could have worked. They just never really put the effort into it. That's what this feels like. They know how they get their bread, and it is from relocation fees. It is from new stadiums. It is from new markets. It is from bigger markets. And right now, there's nothing keeping you in Oakland.
Mhm.
Oakland's a small market. Oakland has sucked for a long time, and you can spin it as, oh, well, with a new location, with a new stadium, we can be more competitive. We'll have more money, et cetera, et cetera. It's all nonsense. It's all crap. They could have stayed in Oakland if they had wanted to, but it's clear John Fisher did not want to stay in Oakland, and it's a travesty. It really is. It sucks. It's absolutely awful.
It's awful. It's terrible. I don't hold out any hope that the Major League Relocation Committee will vote down the move. You need 8 owners to have a backbone. If 8 owners have a backbone, John Fisher does not get what he wants. The problem is 8 owners will not have a backbone, and they will just keep up what's been going on, and they will vote to move, which is unfortunate and disappointing. But I'm happy Oakland's fighting, and more importantly, that they're making it very clear of, no, we're putting all these facts on display just to further prove the reason the A's are moving is because Fisher wanted to move and was sabotaging everything at every step.
How many owners end up voting no? So 29 will vote, right?
29 will vote, and you need a 3/4 majority, which is where I believe, if I've done the math, that's why you need 8 no votes causes a fail.
Yeah.
If all my math is correct.
I believe you're correct about that.
I mean, maybe 3. I feel a large majority will be in full lockstep, just from the level of this is just what we do. Like, this is what we do. Now, the only reason I could see this vote failing is if, and we're bringing Washington into this, and not, I mean, the Washington Nationals, I mean, Congress in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
They have said this type of thing is making them want to re-examine MLB's antitrust exemption, a.k.a. the golden goose that MLB's been built on for over 100 years.
MLB, the NFL, I mean, all the big leagues. That's MLB what they want to hold on to.
Loves their antitrust exemption. The only reason I could believe that you would get enough voters to vote no is if they felt in actuality that the A's moving to Vegas would lead to that being re-examined and possibly taken away.
And I don't think it would be.
I don't think it would be either. I think that was a very weak threat that Congress put out and was never going to follow through with. That's the only reason I think you would get enough people voting no.
I would set the over-under at 0.5, and I would take the under. I think it's going to pass unanimously.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's 29-0.
It's going to suck.
It's going to be brutal, and I hate every second of it, but that's just the way it breaks sometimes.
Yeah, no, it is what it is, as much as I hate to say that in this situation. Next headline for me. Are you a Hard Knocks guy?
I am not. I have never watched a single episode of Hard Knocks ever.
Neither have I. Well, we do know who the next Hard Knocks team is going to be.
Got a chance for you to watch it this year.
Yeah. Would it surprise you to know it is the New York Jets?
Not heavily. Not after I learned of so many teams not wanting to do it, and with the Jets being one of the teams they can force to do it. And the fact that they now have the resident crazy headline guy at quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who says the wackiest stuff with every fiber of his being. I'm not surprised that that's the route they're taking for ratings, as they would say.
Per Adam Schefter, among others, Hard Knocks and the NFL have chosen the New York Jets. The Jets were one of the teams that was subject to being selected. So they have certain criteria. We went over this a few weeks ago when we were down to the last few, but you have to be a team that missed the playoffs the year before. You cannot have a first-year head coach. And there's one other piece of information, too, but I don't remember what the rule is.
I want to say it's something about like winning record or something about, I think, related to your success.
Yeah.
Because basically, if you're a hyper-successful franchise, you can't be forced to do it.
I've got it. I thought I had it here. Anyway, oh, yes. Here we go. Yahoo Sports has this written up for me. So the rules are you cannot have been on the show in the past 10 seasons. The Jets were on it in 2010, 13 years ago. Your coach cannot be in their first year, and you cannot have been to the playoffs in the previous 2 seasons. Jets have not been to the playoffs. Robert Saleh is going into year 3. They haven't been on in 13 years. And by the way, they have Aaron Rodgers. Now, the report is it's not just going to be the Aaron Rodgers show, which is smart. You get that for free on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday during the season. but they are still going to focus mainly on the same stuff. People are going to tune in to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to say, and they're going to tune in to see if he's going to say something totally out of pocket. He has generally not done that during his media availability in his career, but with the cameras around him all the time, maybe he will. Maybe he'll say some stuff you just would not believe. I think it's an interesting team. I don't know that Robert Saleh is that fascinating, but maybe he's more interesting than we know. Maybe we're going to see some great, you always see these great personalities, and people talk about him. I've also never watched Hard Knocks. I don't really know why. It just has never quite appealed to me. My wife has watched it. I'll watch every piece of NFL media you give me, but Hard Knocks, I don't need it. I really don't.
Yeah, that's always where it's been with me. I'm very intrigued at how Robert Saleh is going to work with this, because he was very much on record of not wanting to do this, of not wanting to be a part of Hard Knocks, not wanting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It was hoping to not be selected. But as we know, he didn't get a choice, because the 4 teams that were eligible to just be forced to do it were the Jets, who have now been chosen.
Right.
The Bears.
I definitely thought they were a possibility.
The Saints. And the Commanders.
No, it's smart to not go with them.
I think your 2 smartest options were the Jets or the Bears.
Agreed.
And then you were probably just coming down to the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, and which makes for a little bit of maybe some more interesting storylines to hit.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's kind of where I have to imagine it is. Sticking with the NFL for my next headline, we might have another running back attempting to sit out for bigger money, because the last time this happened, it went so glowingly well. This is from ESPN. Per sources, Saquon Barkley's week 1 is allegedly in jeopardy if there is no long-term deal reached. The Barkley and the Giants, because Saquon is supposed to be on the franchise tag. He's not signed his franchise tag tender.
Mm-hmm.
They have until 4 p.m. Eastern coming up on Monday to come to terms on a long-term extension. Otherwise, they cannot make a long-term deal. Barkley must then either not play at all or put under the franchise tag for 2023. Barkley has been very, very open about not wanting to have been tagged, wanting a long-term contract, and now there is a chance that he allegedly will sit out week 1 if a long-term deal is not reached, at least week 1. The last player to sit out an entire season due to contract dispute was Le'Veon Bell in 2018.
Yes, it was.
I think history has told us that went really, really bad for Le'Veon Bell.
Lev Bell, during the first 5 years of his career, 2-time first-team All-Pro, a second-team All-Pro, 3 Pro Bowls, and he toted the ball a lot. In 2017, when he was a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler, he led the NFL with 406 touches. That is an astounding number. His final year in the league, his final 2 years in the league combined, he only had 142 touches. So he sat out the 2018 season. I've got his Football Reference page in front of me right now. Then he signed with the Jets for a decent contract, and I think when he signed with the Jets, it was a 4-year deal for $52.5 million, 27 of which was guaranteed. So he got some money, but he effectively got around what Pittsburgh had offered him in the first place that he turned down. He sits out a year, has a decent season. Decent season with the Jets. He played 15 games, 789 yards, but he only averaged 3.2 yards an attempt and only had 3 touchdowns. So it wasn't great, but he hadn't played in a year. Okay, fine. His last 2 seasons, he played for 4 teams in 2 years for a grand total of 19 games and a grand total of 597 yards from scrimmage. His career fell off a cliff in an instant. And if you want to throw in that 2019 season, the one with the Jets when he actually played, 3 years, 1,847 yards in a per 17 game average. So 17 games, not even a 16 game average. Per 17 games, 924 yards from scrimmage. Not 924 rushing. He averaged just over 600 per 17 games in those 3 years. And he fell off a cliff immediately. Running backs really cannot afford to do it. And I understand you want the security. I understand that you want to stick around. You want to get paid. You want long-term security. I get all of those things, but it just does not make sense because your career can be over in an instant. Le'Veon Bell went from first-team All-Pro to jabroni in an instant. And the league, you know what the league did, Fulton? Steamrolled him.
Oh, yeah.
Just buried him in a pile of dirt and grime and blood and sweat and tears, and he was irrelevant. Remember when he was a Chief?
Yeah, I
played
do.
For the Chiefs?
I remember he was a Chief, and then it didn't go well, and then he got upset that it didn't go well.
63 carries for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. I didn't even know he had 2 touchdowns. I didn't even know he played 9 games for the Chiefs, to be completely honest.
I remember that much. Yeah, I remember he had the appearances. I remember that.
Yeah, I just... Look, I've said this before. Dan and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. If you were telling me you've got to pick Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley, one of them gets a long-term deal, who are you giving the money to? I know that it doesn't make analytical sense. I know that financially it doesn't even make a whole lot of sense. I'm paying Barkley because Barkley is better at his job than Daniel Jones is at his.
Correct.
Right now, based on the evidence we have with Daniel Jones as an NFL quarterback, do you think the New York Giants can win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones?
Absolutely not.
Is he better than Kirk Cousins? Is he better than Dak Prescott?
Nope.
Is he better than Derek Carr?
Nope.
That's the group we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. You would have thrown Matthew Stafford in there for most of his career, but then he ended up getting traded to literally the perfect situation. All the Rams needed was an above-average quarterback with that perfectly built roster and the right head coach to win a Super Bowl. So Stafford graduated out of this. But as they're constructed right now, do the Giants have that?
No.
Not even close.
And yeah, I never understood the give Daniel Jones. And I'm with you. From a financial standpoint, analytical standpoint, it sounds crazy to pay the running back the big money. But it's true in the sense of Saquon Barkley is infinitely better at his job than Daniel Jones is at his job.
And you're capping yourself.
Yeah.
By giving that money to Danny Dimes, you are capping your potential going forward. That's just the fact of the matter. So by eliminating that higher ceiling, by intentionally lowering your ceiling, you're also sticking yourself with this guy, and it's going to cost you Barkley. I know it's not the analytically smart thing to do. And generally speaking, I would say you let that guy walk. But this is not the same kind of scenario. You just gave the money to a middling quarterback who wins games by running. You know how many quarterbacks have won Super Bowls by being a runner? No. 0. Being able to run, important. Being run first because you're not a very good passer, never been done. Never been done. It did not make sense. You should, honestly, if you were going to try to just tag Barkley, you should have let them both walk and just try to tank and draft the quarterback.
Honestly, yeah.
Try to get
tank for Caleb Williams.
Caleb or Drake May, or if you think you're going to be in the middle of the draft, you instead decide to go for Michael Penix, who's older, but you shoot for the stars. By getting Daniel Jones, you're shooting for like maybe the ozone. You're not getting to the stars with that.
No, you're not even getting to like the stratosphere.
So I get it for Saquon. I get it. You're saying you're going to keep that guy, but you better be keeping me too. So while it doesn't make the analytical, or in a lot of cases, because of the analytical perspective, a lot of financial sense, you had a choice between a top tier, I think, I'm a big Saquon fan, a top tier running back or a quarterback who is not going to win you a Super Bowl. And you picked the quarterback. I don't blame Saquon for wanting to do this, but by the same token, I think it would be dumb not to play because go get your money. There's no guarantee that you are going to have this career again.
Just take the 1-year deal. I know it's not what you want to do, but don't sit out a year. It's never gone well for anyone.
That'll do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up on the other side of this break, we're going to hear from Kansas Jayhawks head coach Lance Leipold on 580 Sports Talk. 5:33 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Fulton here with you. Earlier today, Jake Laban and Dan Lucero down in Arlington at Jerry World. It was KU Day at Media Days today, and they got to speak to the head Jayhawk, Lance Leipold. I freaking love Lance Leipold, man. One of the greatest hires that KU Athletics is ever going to have. Has helped resurrect the program from being an absolute doormat to being a legitimate, feisty program and a bowl game contender. And we are now going to listen back to that conversation Jake and Dan had with Lance Leipold from earlier today down in Arlington.
Welcome back to Big 12 Football Media Days here in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium, and we bring in the head Jayhawk coming off one of the best years in the last decade for KU football as they head to the bowl game last year and one of the wildest games I've ever seen down in Liberty for the Arkansas against Arkansas. We're bringing head coach Lance Leipold. Lance, I got to know, the level of excitement for KU football hasn't been like this maybe since, 2008, 2009. Can you explain to me and to everyone out there how you're seeing a different alumni base and a group that's so excited for this team?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you guys. Appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, it's been special. I think the one time, the thing that's resonated with me in like 26 months of being here is the passion that our fan base has had, but also some of those frustrations that I've gone through, and they've been very patient. Now it's that excitement that they see progress. They've seen some wins, the bowl game, and they feel that we're on a direction. But, the other part is there's some that have been through these games and when there's not a lot of people there that really watch and they can see the difference, whether it be on the sidelines and how the kids act and where we're going. And that's all positive to me. And that's part of what we're trying to do. And I think with the amount of players that we have coming back, hopefully, and we're ready to take another step.
What's been the biggest change when you first got onto campus till now with your team?
I think trust and growth and maturity and what the process is really about. I know that's a word that's used a lot, but what it's going to take through the daily expectations, I think they've embraced what we're asking them to do. And then again, you take it just personal growth and maturity, because with some of those things, the confidence follows afterwards. I say this many times. I think our staff has done a great job of holistic development, not just football development. We've had 2 semesters in a row with program best GPAs in the classroom. Okay. But with that, though, expectations of being there, the engagement, the effort in the classroom, the players start seeing results that they've never seen before, and personal confidence kind of grows with that. And I think we've seen that carry on, that our guys are taking that next step on the field, and that's really been exciting.
Last year, 5-0. I mean, it was electric. College game day is there. I mean, if you'd have told us before the season, hey, game day is going to be in Lawrence, I would have said, I'm not going to believe you. And then you finish a little bit down. Is it something about the start to the finish? How do you make sure you can make it all the way through?
Well, that's the next question. Okay, that we have to. We're going to have a challenging start again, and we got to get off to a good start. But consistent, 12-game, 13-week football is going to be extremely important to this program. I think the thing that has to happen is of course you got to stay healthy. I mean, it wasn't just Jalen going down. We lost Daniel Highshaw. Then all of a sudden, I don't think we had the depth we needed in the offensive line, and you start wearing down, and the matchups start getting. We went down to Oklahoma, and they had an off week before that after they had stubbed their toe, and they came out on fire, and we didn't respond well. And again, there was some same thing. Turn the ball over at Baylor uncharacteristically. We've got to be able to prevent those things and respond accordingly. And I think that's kind of the way you mentioned that bowl game. To me, it was, I'm so proud of our team for the way we fought back. And I've said this many times, is you watch bowl games and the score gets out of control at halftime and people just play it out. And they kind of go through the motions and hopefully get through it. Our guys battled. And I think that was such a great stepping stone, even though we didn't complete it, to take this next step. We're close and we can be there, but we got to be there all the time. And I think that's helped us. And I think it'll carry over through this season.
I think this is the toughest question for someone in your position when you've got a guy like Jalen Daniels. He is electric with the football, throwing it and running it. How often do you run the guy? I mean, that is something that you just don't know. Hey, he's so good at it, but gosh, the more hits the quarterback takes, how do you decide that? How do you decipher that play calling and telling Jalen, hey, you got to pick and choose, man, when he's going to want to go full throttle.
Right. And when he was injured, we make sure it was on a scramble play. It was a play that broke the pocket. So it wasn't a designed run. But, again, that's, why don't they run the ball with quarterbacks in the NFL? You're answering the question, right? So, again, it doesn't mean we're going to be reckless, but we're confident with Jason Bean as well and what he's done. But we know we're a different football team when Jalen Daniels is behind center. We got to be smart, but the RPO game and the options that we've included, sometimes will dictate he's going to run the ball. We have to be smart. We have to talk to him. We've talked with him and quarterbacks in our offenses in the past, when to get down, when to lunge forward, when to slide, when to do those things. All are important, and we got to be able to take advantage of those things and coach him and be smart for hopefully a 12-plus game season.
We're talking with Lance Leipold, head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, from Big 12 Football Media Days at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Coach, you've got one of the more experienced teams in the country coming back, and a lot of players coming back who've been part of your program now for a season or two. How does that change your responsibility and give the players a little bit more of the responsibility of growing the culture, setting the standard, and making sure that everybody knows what's expected of them?
Well, very good question. And the thing was, our first year or last year at Media Day, we sat and talked about that we're the youngest Power 5 football team in the country in 21. And then we take a step. Now here we are. From day one, though, Matt Gildersleeve, our head strength coach, does an outstanding job. But part of our culture and our culture curriculum, quite honestly, and how we go about in the off season, what we're doing is to always strive to get to a player-led program and then continue that. And 4 guys that are here today are part of that and what we see. And again, as they embrace it and they've learned it and they learn trust and they grow personally, then they can lead others a little better. But I think we continue to take those things that they have held each other to that standard. And it is an important part for us to take that step where the coaches don't have to do all the leading per se. And that's the way it was in 21. I think some last year, but I think we're slowly being able to back off of that.
Jalen Daniels, obviously special talent, preseason offensive player of the year. You've got Devin Neal back. You've got, I think, 8 of your pass catchers back. Luke Grimm, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the country. But up front, you have been able to put together an experienced offensive line that should be one of the best Kansas has fielded in years. Talk about those guys, how important continuity is for that group up front.
It is. As you know, you can only do so much out there if you don't have the guys up front. Mike Nowitzki's the guy right in the middle. Mike's been with us, since our days in Buffalo. And, again, he's going to be a 5-year college starter, which is amazing. And then the way he goes through it, I think Bryce Cable at the right tackle spot is been solid now for 2 years. Michael Ford is going to be at right guard. Amarje Reed Adams is going to be probably left guard. And then Dominic Pooney and Logan Brown will be looking at that left tackle spot. Pooney can always bump back in. It's very important for the continuity of what we're doing, what we're asking them to do. Scott Fuchs has done a great job developing those guys. But the thing I like about what you're asking in the question that makes me even more confident with that group is I think we have 3 to 4 others that'll be ready to play. Spencer Lovell transfers from Cal. He's played some at Arizona State. He's finally come in. He's been able to get a little healthier than he was out there. He's dropped some weight. Kobe Baines is a player that transferred from Louisville last August during camp, so it was tough to get him. He's a physical. He can play the right side guard tackle spot. So we've got guys. I mentioned Logan Brown, the transfer from Wisconsin, who's played a lot of football in the Big Ten. So now we've got the movable parts and that we're able, it's always Scott Fuchs, our line coach, and I and Andy Kolnicki, we talk about this, guys. Sometimes when you have just a backup right tackle, a backup left tackle, he may be your 9th or best or 10th best offensive lineman. Okay, and if one of those guys get hurt, you're playing 6 through 9 are still sitting on the bench or something. We've got enough movable parts with those guys that can play different positions that allow us to have our best guys on the time, but also rotate some during the year that'll keep us fresh in those physical ball games that hopefully will help us down that back half of the season.
defensively. I know third down was a source of frustration last year. You've got to be able to get off the field on those third downs. Pass rush is a big part of that. You lose your sack leader from last year, Lonnie Phelps. Who are the names and faces that need to step forward in your front seven on your defensive line to make sure that you've got that edge rush, that pass rush presence to give you a chance to get those stops, get that offense back on the field?
Yeah, when you say on the edge, it's probably going to start with Jeremy Robinson. Again, Jeremy showed some flashes. He's going to be a guy continually to go. Hayden Hatcher is kind of a grinder, high effort guy. He's had an outstanding summer. Austin Booker's been a transfer from Minnesota. Dean Miller was a junior college transfer a year ago who we redshirted. He's long. He's a little lean yet, but he's got the twitch and ability to get around the corner. Dylan Brooks is a transfer that we brought in this summer from Auburn. I think those are going to be some of the guys that you're going to see. It's going to be some rotational stuff there. Devin Phillips, the transfer from Colorado State, is a big, thick body, but has some quickness interiorly. And Gage Keys has been a guy when he was at Minnesota, played both spots. He's an athletic guy from a three technique position, I think is going to help us in the pass rush.
The last couple questions for head coach Lance Leipold of the Kansas Jayhawks. I got to know about the transfer portal. It's a good thing, I think, but also I wonder if kids aren't trying to stick it out a little bit longer. To each their own, it's different. But for a head coach, do you have to recruit your players every single year? And is it a benefit for a place like Kansas? Like, hey, you know what? We need to use this to our advantage.
Well, recruit them every year, every day. Because our guys been pretty good, and I think somebody showed me something that we had the least. I think us and Baylor might have had the least amount of players that left from August to the end of the portal period in the Big 12 last season. But you guys know a lot better than me what Kansas football had gone through prior to that, and I think prior to my hiring, even in December and January, they're on the higher end. So stabilizing the roster, the under scholarship part that Kansas was at, we were able to try to get the recruiting numbers up, balance them throughout the age groups, which is strive for. I think for the most part, we lost 3 defensive starters from the year before the first month I was on the job, and I didn't get a chance to talk to those guys. I think we've been able to be there and where you want to settle it. I hope that it settles out for college football. There will always be certain positions, I think, that'll probably be a little more active. We want to try to take the approach, guys, that, when you have a senior in your eligibility, roster area, you're looking to replace one of the high school players, just like you always did before. Now, if you end up with attrition for one reason or another with a middle classman, so to speak, or something like that unexpectedly, then I think you have to go back and look to, utilize where you can upgrade your roster. Sometimes that used to be done, as we know, with the Jayhawk Conference in junior college football. But now you have another option out there. But again, the thing we have to do is make sure that we're making great evaluations in recruiting and then developing and retaining those players.
I got to ask about name, image, and likeness. How important is it?
Well, it's here to stay, and it's good. I mean, we all, society-wise, we're always, in the dollars and cents and how much, but there's a lot of good stories about young men using the money appropriately and what they need to use it for. I think we're all looking for some better guardrails in this and how it's going to be monitored and what is truly going to be a sustainable model in this format.
Do you worry about the locker room? I get so many people who are like, well, then you got the quarterback making so much money and then the left tackle, that's not. And I'm like, that tells me you've never been in a locker room.
Yeah, I think everybody worries about that. They worry about the locker room. Anything else that adds into human jealousy and divide and all those things, because you work so hard at trying to build unity. I've tried to say it could be the same thing with your coaching staff, okay, and salaries and everything else and continuity and those things. Yeah, I would be lying if I said it's not a concern. I think our guys have handled it. It's still an evolving thing, and hopefully everyone can make it work and work for the best.
All right, last two for the road. I'm always interested in this. Do you have a conditioning test? Does KU do a conditioning test?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, no, not to worry. They did a conditioning test when we gave them a break over 4th of July. but conditioning is every day in our
I'm
program.
just interested in like the specific test because I find that fascinating. Everyone does things differently.
We used to do that 300 shuttle, like 60 yards 5 times. And
I hated that.
You know,
that was awful.
But I used to say to our strength coaches, and I was probably guilty because I used to love the test but we never tested for the test. We never gave them a chance to pace themselves and do it. We do all these other things. So, but we went through it, you know, again, those are things that people don't always understand. Like we don't run sprints after practice anymore. No. Everything's done because we're with them so much that we see it, engage it in other ways.
All right. Lastly, who picks the music for practice? Do you pick it? Do the players? Do you have veto power?
Yeah, I have veto power on a lot of things. Yeah, you believe it or not, though, you know, there's certain days and there's certain things picking up. Our video coordinator, actually, Jimmy Lee, is a guy that does most of it. I think he takes, we ask players to give suggestions in and out, whatever. I'll give them a hard time on a song or two or something. I'll try to play a little Taylor Swift or something to keep Kenny Logan happy or something.
Wait, whoa.
No, don't tell my son.
Kenny Logan is Swiftie?
Yeah, you may have to ask him that today, all right?
Wow.
He will.
And
that's 1,000%.
I don't think he'll run from it either.
She's got some hits.
Yeah, you know, there's some of those things. But, you know, honestly, for me, there's sometimes like we have some, you know, depending on who's visiting and things like that. Now, it's always censored and all that. But for me, it's certain times of the practice where it gets into, you know, beats per minute or whatever we're looking at. You know, that's what you want. We're a morning practice team. There's certain days and it shows the help, and there's certain times. Our coaches are more concerned about how loud it is at certain times of practice when you're trying to get points across and stuff like that.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Best of luck against the Jayhawks, and we'll be definitely there. Missouri State coming up.
It is. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
That is Lance Leipold speaking to Jake and Dan earlier today. I'm going to imagine that Jake meant to say congrats to you and the Jayhawks, not or best of luck against the Jayhawks, but that's fine. Just teasing our guy there now. Awesome stuff from Lance Leipold. We'll break it down after this on 580 Sports Talk. All right, Fulton, what'd you think of what we heard from Lance Leipold just now?
Beyond the fair fact I've learned today from both Lance and everyone else at KU that Kenny Logan is a massive Swiftie. Beyond that fact, which is my favorite one I've learned today. No, just Lance understanding the position KU's in, understanding, you know, the big picture of it all, of like, how much this, the rebuild at Buffalo was one thing. What he did at Wisconsin Whitewater was one thing. Mm-hmm. What he's doing at KU is a wholly different thing. And the prospect of what he's trying to do is in its own kind of realm of a situation. And his continuing understanding of that and knowing the process and knowing, that they're far from finished with what he's trying to do and knowing mm-hmm. what it needs to make it consistent. That's just always refreshing to hear from Lance.
Yeah. And I think too, the fact that he and the program and the administration too, talking about Travis Goff and upwards, and it's a bummer Travis Goff didn't make the trip because it would have been nice to hear from him today as well, and just to get his thoughts on this same topic. But the fact that they're embracing the NIL side of things and the transfer portal, and hey, look, there guardrails would be nice, but this is what it is. It's not going away. We have embraced it. We have added guys this way. We have found ways to make it work for us. We have found ways to incorporate it where it's not the only thing we're focusing on, but we know players care about it. So we have it a way for them to get involved, get interested, and to pique their interest. And I think that is extremely important. And it's amazing that not every single school in the country has done that. And anyone who hasn't done that for both the transfer portal and free transfers and for NIL, I think is ridiculous. I really do. And I appreciate that. And I'm glad that Leipold's on board with that because that's going to help KU so much in the long run. We've got to get to one final timeout. We'll wrap things up with the final word after this on 580 Sports Talk.
In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
All right, Fulton, time to wrap things up with a quick final word.
Big 12 Media Days, day one, rousing success. It was great to hear from all the different people we got to discuss today, but it was fun seeing the new schools get involved. And even, we haven't heard much from the new schools today, but it was fun they got that first taste of the limelight in the Big 12. Hope to hear more from them coming forward and just a nice start to a great event to signify this new era of the Big 12.
We got to lead off the show today with Devin Neal, who spoke live to Dan and Jake as we opened up 580 Sports Talk. And I really do think pro teams are going to take notice. And I think the whole country is going to take notice of him this year. A full year to dedicate himself to just football, to getting his body right, to working on his diet. And I think with the fact that he's not going to have to carry the entire load rushing the ball next year, it'll be Daniels, it'll be Highshaw, it'll be Morrison helping him out. I really do think Neal's in line for a first-team All-Big 12 postseason kind of award, not just preseason. Coming up tomorrow, it is day 2 of Big 12 Football Media Days. Jake and Dan will be down there live for Mic'd Up from noon to 3. We'll have interviews with all 4 K-State players, plus Coach Chris Kleiman, plus Gene Taylor tomorrow. Plenty of other guests joining us as well, including Rick Peterson for the high school whip round. All that is coming up tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. For Fulton, I'm Brendan. We'll talk to you then.